about many petitions relating to land. And it's about time that they looked at it holistically, because the challenges in each petition are similar. So we do hope that as we give it to the petitions committee, that they should actually assemble all the petitions relating to land and look at them, and you realize it's the same systemic bottlenecks that exist. Okay, thank you. Next order.
Order number 5, papers.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025, morning sitting. A, Treasury Memorandum from the National Treasury and Economic Funds Accounts Committee, report for 26 constituency in Mombasa, Tana River, Lamu, Taita, Taveta, Kilifi, and Kwale counties for the years 2013, 2014, 2015, and 2015-2016. Number 2, 12 constituencies in Kakamega County for the years 2013, 2014, 2015, and 2015-2016. And 5 constituencies in Vihiga County for the years 2013, 2014, 2015, and 2016. B, special audit report on government digital payments platform for eCitizen for March 2025 from the Office of the Auditor General. And C, reports of the Auditor General on forensic review of supply chain function, Kenya Power and Lighting Company, KPLC, for March 2025 from the Office of the Auditor General. D, submission of nominees for the National Government Constituency Development Fund committees for the following 37 constituencies. 1, Bomet Central, 2, Bureti, 3, Butula, 4, Embakasi South, 5, Jem, 6, Homa Bay Town, 7, Kabete, 8, Kajiado South, 9, Kanduyi, 10, Kerachonyo, 11, Keio North, 12, Gakumo, 13, Kilifi North, 15, Kisauni, 14, Kisauni, 15, Kisauni West, 16, Kitui West, 17, Maragua, 18, Marakwet West, 19, Bere, 20, Mwala, 21, Mwatate, 22, Mwingi North, 23, Nakuru Town, 24, Nandi Hills, 25, India, 26, Nyaribari, Chache, 27, Olekalau, 28, Rongo, 29, Runyenjes, 30, Samburu North, 31, Seme, 32, South Mugirango, 33, Tiati, 34, Turkana East, 35, Wajir South, 36, Webuye West, and 37, Yata. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I lay.
Okay, next order. Honorable Naomi Wako, I think I'm told that you read number 15. We can repeat it.
Sorry, Honorable Speaker. Number 15, Kisumu West.
Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
Okay, I think we have a statement that has been made by the Honorable Mashua Waithaka, member for Kiambu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Attempting grabbing of land belonging to one Mr. Elijah Mwangi in Kiambu County. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44-2C, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Lands, regarding grabbing of land registration number 14747/14 belonging to the late Mr. Elijah Mwangi Kinyanjui in Kiambu County. Honorable Speaker, the family of Mr. Elijah Mwangi of ID number 0971236 has for many years owned and reside on a piece of land LR number 14747/14 in Kiambu County with their ownership properly documented. The original deed was used to secure a loan from the Consolidated Bank on Yangi Street branch, where it remains in custody. However, following the dismissal of Mr. Mwangi in 2019, the family has faced harassment from individuals presenting an alternative title deed for the same property, alleging that Mr. Mwangi sold the land to them. Notably, the required spousal consent for such a sale was neither sought nor granted, and that claimants have failed to produce any sale agreement, indicating an attempt at land grabbing. Despite efforts by the family to seek government intervention to validate their rightful ownership of the disputed land, their appeals have been frustrated and have borne no fruit. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I request a statement from Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Lands on the following. One, the actions being taken to investigate and resolve the reports made by the family regarding the attempted land grabbing, including specific steps being taken by the Ministry of Lands, Public Works, Housing, and Urban Development to safeguard the legitimate land rights of the family of the late Mr. Mwangi, Elijah Mwangi, by nullification of the duplicate title deed presented by the claimants. And two, the strategies being implemented by the ministry to protect lawful landowners from similar fraudulent claims, including established timelines for addressing any grievances raised by. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Chairperson for Committee on Lands, Honorable Nyamoke, are you present? Any other member of that committee who can give a commitment and undertaking on behalf of the chair? Okay. Honorable Ochanda, yes?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think this is noted, and we'll pick it up as a committee. And I want to promise that I'll be up very fast to look for the chair, so that this is looked at by next week. Okay.
Thank you. Can move to the next order.
Order number 8, the Teachers Service Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 27 of 2024, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Teacher Service Commission Act. Order number 9, the Basic Education Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 59 of 2023, second reading, resumption of debate.
Who was on the floor? Okay. I'm told that the member for Karosoi South was the one who was on the floor and had a balance of time. But in his absence, members who want to contribute, could you kindly press the intervention button? Honorable Donya Doris, do you want to contribute? Because I can see you've pressed the intervention button. Do you want to contribute to the teachers? Okay. Okay. So, honorable members, press the intervention. Honorable Adan Haji Mandera, do you want to contribute to this? You can see him there. Honorable Nyense, did you want to contribute to this? So you can see people have their cards in, but they're not in. Okay, in the absence of any further interest in this bill, what we can do is, where's the mover to reply? Where's the mover? Honorable Wamaua, you may reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to reply. Madam Speaker, allow me to extend my sincere appreciation to all the honorable members who spoke to this bill, including even those who wanted to contribute and didn't get time or they are not in within this time that you've called me to reply. And Madam Speaker, the key areas that were raised in the debate were one, the remuneration of the board members, whose suggestion was that the sub-county education board members should receive allowances akin to other public servant, and it is a valid consideration and it can be incorporated through the amendment at the committee of the whole house, Madam Speaker. Two, there was the definition of the sub-county education board, and some honorable members and more to Honorable Kenan sought clarity on whether these boards align with constituency-based structures or administrative sub-county units. But Madam Speaker, using the County Government Act, it is evident that these boards are decentralized units of the County Education Board, and therefore we should ensure we align with the existing government structures. But in case of a different opinion, I think there will still be a chance to speak to it during the time of the committee of the whole house. Madam Speaker, the other one was the appointment of board members, and there is an honorable member who proposed that we remove the wording competitive process in the nomination, and I agree to this because in many of the areas we were spelling out who is this, who is supposed to be in the board, and therefore I agree to that. And therefore we shall be able to refine this during the committee of the whole house. Madam Speaker, the other area of concern was the involvement of members of parliament. Madam Speaker, the inclusion of MPs in the board was intended to ensure coordination between the NGCDF allocation and government resources. And without their involvement, I thought there was a risk of duplication or uneven distribution of funds, leading to inefficiencies. But still, if at all, there will still be need to improve on it. I think there is still enough time during the committee of of the house, if at all there is anyone who will have an amendment towards it. Madam Speaker, the other area was the co-option of additional experts. Madam Speaker, the bill allows for co-opting experts when necessary. And Madam Speaker, this was particularly in specialized areas such as maybe an ICT required.
Honorable Wamaua, allow me to interrupt you to welcome the students who are here, to recognize them before they might leave before we recognize them. So I wish to recognize the presence of Nguku Junior School, Kigumo constituency, Muranga County, who are seated in the public gallery. And also seated in the public gallery is Nairobi Comprehensive School from Dagoretti North constituency, Nairobi County. And Honorable Maua, as you continue with your reply, you can welcome them on our behalf.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I take the opportunity to welcome the students who have come here so that they can see what usually happen in Parliament. And our major work is to make sure that we look at the government businesses. We also look at legislation. We do amendment also to existing laws, depending on the times that we are in. But we encourage you back in schools to work a hand to make sure in the future there will be members of parliament or even people of integrity.
Let's give her 2 more minutes so she can complete.
I was concluding by saying they can emulate and be the next members of parliament if they want to get into that. But we are wishing them to work hard in their schools, incorporating a lot of discipline so that in the future they can be people who can be able to change this country to greater height. Madam Speaker, I was saying the other concern was the corruption of additional expert. And Madam Speaker, in this bill, it is allowing the corruption of experts when necessary, particularly in specialized areas like the ICT. Maybe because we are also dealing with the infrastructure, there are also experts in the name of the quantity surveyors and architecture who can assist. If at all in the board, we do not have anyone of such expertise. Madam Speaker, the other area of concern was the staffing of sub-county education board. And Madam Speaker, in this one, the concern was that county government primarily handle the early childhood education, while basic education falls under the national government. And therefore, this matter will be refined to ensure clear delineation of responsibilities without administrative conflicts. Honorable Speaker, the Basic Education Bill number 59 of 2023 is timely. It is to respond to the growing need for greater public involvement in the decision making, particularly in education, which is a fundamental national development agenda. And by establishing legally recognized sub-county education boards, we bring decision making closer to the people, ensuring fairer resource allocation, practical governance, and responsiveness to local needs. And with that, Madam Speaker, because a lot had been debated here by members, I want to thank the House for its robust debate and the support. And Madam Speaker, I beg to reply.
We shall defer the proposing and putting the question to a later time. Putting the question to a later time. And honorable members, I just wanted to inform you that we shall defer the motion by Honorable Sabina Chege. She has requested to do it at another time. So we'll move to order number 11. So next order.
Order number 10, motion, implementation of the universal health coverage and of a policy on a mandatory use of public health care facilities by public officers. Order number 11, motion, supporting and promoting local fertilizer manufacturing industries.
Honorable Atandi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to move this motion on supporting and promoting local fertilizer manufacturing industries in the country. Speaker, the significance of fertilizer sector, fertilizers for this economy. Thank you. Let me read the motion. Supporting and promoting local fertilizer manufacturing industries. Aware that the Fertilizer and Animal Foodstuff Act 2015 provides for the regulation of fertilizer importation in the country. Further aware that the Fertilizer and Animal Foodstuffs Board regulates the fertilizer and animal foodstuffs industry, including the manufacture and production of fertilizers, noting that the country currently relies heavily on imported fertilizer due to inadequate local production capacity, noting that the low local production leads to high costs for farmers, reducing their profits and resulting in unhealthy reliance on imported fertilizer. Concerned that this scenario threatens the country's food security in case of supply disruptions and discourages local production, recognizing that local fertilizer production could lead to improved fertilizer quality, increased crop yields, and reduction in environmental harm caused by the use of substandard fertilizers, recalling that the country has the potential to produce fertilizer that could meet the country's domestic demand and also supply the regional market. Further, recognizing that there is need for the government to work with local producers to develop high-quality fertilizer tailored to the needs of Kenyan farmers and crops. Now, therefore, this has resolved that the national government, through Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, supports and promotes local fertilizer manufacturing industries by investing in research and development to bolster the domestic fertilizer manufacturing sector. Madam Speaker, thank you very much for this opportunity to move this motion. Madam Speaker, the significance of the fertilizer in this economy can no longer be gainsaid. Madam Speaker, as you're aware that to date, our economy is stabilizing on the back of the agricultural performance. And this performance relies heavily on fertilizer subsidy. As you are aware, since the coming into government by the Kenya Kwanza regime, the fertilizer subsidies has been one of the most significant items that this government has done that has been able to stabilize the agricultural sector. Today, agricultural sector is contributing significantly in the growth of our economy. And the government the sector has been doing a lot of importation of fertilizers. As at last year, Madam Speaker, the economy imported about 2 million tons of fertilizers from outside the country. And Honorable Speaker, this is something that is not very good for our economy. And therefore, Madam Speaker, the reason why we are importing more fertilizers is because our own economy cannot produce enough fertilizers to support our farmers. And Honorable Speaker, when we form industries, when we encourage investors to start industries that are dealing in manufacturing and fertilizers, this is going to be very good for us because, as you're aware, manufacturing is one of the sectors that we need to promote so that our economy can grow. But one of the things that is hindering the investment in this sector, first of all, is one, the taxes that apply to the manufacturing sector. And some of these taxes, Madam Speaker, are very heavy. One of the taxes that is really stopping the sector, manufacturing sector is the recently increased corporation income tax. Madam Speaker, this income tax is a problem because it is leading to many manufacturers exiting this sector, among other sectors. So, Madam Speaker, one of the things that we need to do that I have thought about when I thought about this motion is that going forward, we need to tamper with our taxes that relate to manufacturing sector. This, in a way, is going to encourage many investors who are interested in this sector to come on board. Madam Speaker, it would be interesting for you to note that in the region, the East African region, we have about apparently 15 companies that are involved in this sector. Uganda has about 8 companies, and Tanzania has about 11 companies. These are the companies that are producing fertilizer that is serving the region. And that is the reason why these companies cannot be able to to supply the needs of the market, the East African market. If you go to countries like South Africa, you will find that manufacturing companies are so many, in the upwards of 100 companies. And that's why their economy is stable and they're able to even to export fertilizers. But as Speaker, if we really support this sector the way it should be, then we would be able to even export fertilizers to the region and even in the East and Central African market. Because some of those markets in the Central African region, they hardly have manufacturing companies doing fertilizers. So, Madam Speaker, this focus is very important. The reason why I think it's very important is because agriculture is going to be, remains the backbone of most economies. Even the emerging economies are still relying on agriculture. So this is something that Kenya can take advantage of. And if we have a very good takeoff, it is a sector that is very green. And all the government needs to do is, first of all, invest in research. Most of the fertilizers that are imported to the country, Madam Speaker, they have not been properly researched. And that is why some of them do not help us in yielding good results, because they are not aligned with the climatic conditions of our country. Also, they do not understand the soil texture of our country. So when you import most of the fertilizers, most of the time they will not give the results you expect. Also, Madam Speaker, in terms of quality, sometimes when you are importing things from other countries, you are not certain about the quality of those products. But when you have companies that are domiciled here, then you are able to regulate the quality. You are able to see that what is coming out of those factories is something that is really tailored for our market. So, Madam Speaker, this is a motion that I've thought about, and in line with the government focus on investing in the manufacturing sector, I think, Madam Speaker, that we really need to urge government to do something on this front. Madam Speaker, as I will be moving the Division of Revenue Bill in the afternoon, you will note that 2 financial years alone, the government has spent over 50 billion Kenya shillings in fertilizer subsidy. Imagine, Madam Speaker, if these subsidies were going to our own local companies that are doing manufacturing. The amount of jobs that this would really create in those sectors is enormous. Unfortunately, the subsidies are going to some of these companies that are importing fertilizers from outside the country. So, Madam Speaker, this is something that I want to say is very, very important. And Kenya can should never be left behind in efforts to strengthen and improve the agricultural sector of our country. Madam Speaker, I wanted to say that having looked at the performance of the economy in the last 5 years, and having seen how our economy continues to diversify, one of the things that we're going to have to do is to encourage also farmers to engage in commercial farming, commercial agriculture. Because most of our farmers are engaged in, small-scale agricultural farming. Now, one of the things outcome that we would get as an economy, if we had all these manufacturing companies doing fertilizers in the country, then we are likely to have most farmers getting interest in doing commercial farming. And commercial farming is more profitable because, to that end, even our tax bracket is going to improve. We do not tax agriculture, Madam Speaker, because most of farmers are doing small-scale farming. So some of these challenges that are forcing farmers to do small-scale farming is availability of cheap quality fertilizers from our own economy. Madam Speaker, I move and ask the Honorable how many people want to support? No, many people are getting interest. I would
Looks
like
like
to
you're
urge the
spoiled for
Honorable.
choice.
I'm spoiled for choice, Madam Speaker, but let me have the Honorable Ferdinand Wanyonyi to support. Thank you. To second.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and the move of the motion to give me the time and so that I can be able to put in to support this, to second this motion, well executed by my brother and daddy. First and foremost, Madam Speaker, we want to have fertilizer and we want to use all the ways to be able to have the fertilizer actually manufactured here. Because first and foremost, Madam Speaker, this country has enough personnel, of enough professionals to be able to come up with a fertilizer that is actually made for this country. Importation of supplies of fertilizer, Madam Speaker, sometimes we import the quality that is not appropriate to our farming, and therefore you will find that, in fact, this kind knows that we imported some ex-member minister imported. I don't know whether he was aware that whatever was importing was fake, and that even cost him a job. And therefore, I think it's important that we actually encourage the country and request to the government to encourage investors to be able to actually set up manufacturing industries for local manufacturing of the fertilizer. One of the important things that as we do that, of course, we create jobs for our youth and everybody else, and of course for professionals in agriculture. And again, of course, we'll be able to have fertilizer that is actually appropriate, as mentioned by the move of this motion, that actually is appropriate to our soil quality and quantity. And we find that, of course, the fertilizer that you get here in Western Kenya, or for that reason, in River Valley, for example, may not be the same as that in the coast or other places, so that we'll be able to have fertilizer manufactured locally here, which is appropriate to the area that actually is requiring that particular fertilizer. Of course, the other thing is that we spend so much money in importation of this, and of course the prices are fixed. There's no flexibility, as mentioned by the mover. That again is something that is very important. Sometimes you are forced to import and spend a lot of foreign exchange importation to pay the whoever is importing or whoever is selling or whoever is exporting the fertilizer to this country. And therefore, again, that is something that Madam Speaker will be able to regulate. The other one is that that's very important is to improve the quality, which I've just mentioned as well. And because the quality of the fertilizer should be appropriate to the soil requirement. So therefore, again, if it's locally manufactured here, and I want to encourage the government to encourage the whoever companies are, even if they are from overseas, they come and invest here, and then be able to have fertilizer actually manufactured locally here. And I think that again is something that is very, very important. And of course, the other thing that is mentioned here is the future, because we do not want just, because the population of this country is growing on daily basis. And therefore, for us to be able to have enough food, we should have enough food, because this country in the region is outstanding. Professionals here. Again, this, given that kind of thing, that kind of scenario, Madam Speaker, I want us to make sure that this country is relied on, so that instead of even importing these fertilizers from overseas, surrounding countries like Uganda, Tanzania, and all other Southern Sudan, the East African bloc should be importing fertilizer from here. And I think we have the capacity and the capability of doing that. That again answers the foreign exchange, which is also important to be improving the standard of living and the standard of our economy, so that it can be able to improve on the economy generally. So we also want to have this so that it becomes, like East Africa countries have been relying on Kenya for many other things. And I think it's important, I think the move of the motion, and it's right to say that we should be able to have this area as a central area for the East and Central African countries to import sugar, quality fertilizer from here, because we will then have people going to these countries to assess the kind of soil texture, so that can have appropriate fertilizers for these countries, instead of us actually importing this fertilizer from the other countries. And therefore, we should actually, as a country, and this House is actually empowered to be able to ask you how this motion is going to the Committee of Agriculture, which will be discussed, and I'm also a member of this Committee of Agriculture, and of course have the relevant ministries to be able to assist us in implementing in improving the fertilizer. And of course, Madam Speaker, I want to end up there, and I stand to support and of course support the mover of this motion, and therefore it's very, very appropriate and be able to move as it's supposed to be. I support.
Honorable members, I now propose the motion that aware that the Fertilizer and Animal Foodstuffs Act 2015 provides for the regulation of fertilizer importation in the country, and further aware that the Fertilizer and Animal Foodstuffs Board regulates the fertilizer and animal foodstuffs industry, including the manufacture and production of fertilizers, noting that the country currently relies heavily on the imported fertilizer due to inadequate local production capacity. Further noting that the low local production leads to high costs for farmers, reducing their profits and in an unhealthy reliance on imported fertilizer. Concerned that this scenario threatens the country's food security in case of supply disruptions and discourages local production. Recognizing that the local fertilizer production could lead to improved fertilizer quality, increased crop yields, and a reduction in environmental harm caused by the use of substandard fertilizers. Recalling that the country has the potential to produce fertilizer that could meet the country's domestic demand and also supply the regional market, and further recognizing that there is need for the government to work with local producers to develop high quality fertilizer tailored to the needs of Kenyan farmers and crops. And now, therefore, this House resolves that the national government, through the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock and Development, supports and promotes local fertilizer manufacturing industries by investing in research and development to bolster domestic fertilizer manufacturing sector. Honorable members who want to debate this motion, please press the intervention button. Honorable Gideon Ochanda.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support this motion of my good neighbor, Honorable Atandi. Madam Speaker, we are an agriculture-led economy. And we are doing very little to realize that we are agriculture-led. We are virtually importing everything in the sector that we ought not to be doing what we are doing. We are importing machinery. All the inputs in agriculture are imported. We are importing fuel. We are importing fertilizer. We are importing virtually kila kitu, everything. And there's no way we can, if we ignore what goes on into agriculture. So, Madam Speaker, at the moment, as a government, what we have realized a little bit much more earlier, we've been identifying what we call strategic areas of investment. The way we've been investing in KQ, we ought to have invested in agriculture in a manner that things that are easy to do, like manufacturing fertilizer, if Uganda, Tanzania, and all these countries that have basically been relying on Kenya are able to produce their own, what's wrong with us? And I think as a government, this must have been realized or ought to have been realized a little bit much more earlier, that if there are no investors, there are no private investors that were to get into this, the government ought to have gotten into this as a strategic investment for purposes of making sure that the economy that really drives this country, there's much more input that are cheaper and are available. The biggest problem over a period of time, Madam Speaker, is that, a lot of noise in countries have a correlation with food. There's a correlation between food production, food availability, and the noises that go on in the country. The more people are without food, the more they get angry over little things. And I think this is something that we really ought to have seen as a country, and it could be part of too many things that are happening around, that nobody's patient enough to wait because everybody is hungry, the prices of food are up, people are unable to buy or unable to consume because of pricing. And if we look at all these things and get into a manner where when we're talking about input, like subsidies that have been going on in agriculture for the last 2 years, we've done very well in terms of production, but subsidies are not sustainable. And because subsidies are not sustainable, as we talk now, there's a problem in terms of fertilizer uptake. There are queues and queues everywhere, and the cereal boards for people looking for, farmers looking for fertilizer, and everybody's raising towards the cereals board because of subsidy. We are not saying that fertilizer is not there. There are fertilizers in shops, there are vet shops that have a lot of fertilizer, but people are queuing and are waiting for this because of the subsidy. So what I'm trying to say is that subsidy is not sustainable. We have to get away or how to do away with all these things and get into a direction where we can produce our own fertilizer and to make sure that some farm inputs are made a little bit cheaper for food to be produced more and for prices to go down. And in that way, we'll be reducing quite a bit of noise that are happening around us. Now, Madam Speaker, if you look at the times when a fertilizer is needed, we are in more or less the same ecological situation with the rest of our neighbors. When it rains here in Kenya, so it rains in Tanzania and in Uganda and parts of Rwanda. So at that particular time, that's the time that farmers really depend on this kind of thing like fertilizer, on inputs like fertilizer. And that's the time now that Uganda has to hold theirs, Tanzania has to hold theirs, such that their farmers are able to get these fertilizers, and you who are dependent on importing goes without fertilizer. So I think as I support this, I want to believe that it should not just be taken for granted. The government must look into this in an aggressive manner. So that even if there are no investors, even if there are no private people who want to get into this, the government must look at this. You can't have food reserves when you don't have reserves for purposes of making sure that food is there. And I think that's where we are really going wrong. So, Madam Speaker, I support this, and I want to believe that the government really needs to wake up. It's late. If you have not done this earlier, it's really late. And the more late it is, the more noises we are going to be experiencing because of food prices. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Karachuonyo, Honorable Okum.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me a chance to contribute on this important motion.
Can I have Sergeant at Arms next to come by? I don't seem to have any support system here.
Oh, thank you. Let me thank my friend Atandi for bringing this motion. It is important. It concerns the heart of everybody. A country with no food is not a country. Any country must be able to feed itself. Ever since the beginning of time, we have known Kenya as an agricultural country. Yet, Madam Speaker, we don't seem to be acting as an agricultural country. It is a pity that Kenya imports food. It is a pity that sometimes we don't even have food to an extent that some of our people are portrayed as the most suffering people in this continent. And yet we have the capacity to produce. I know in order that we can produce more, we need fertilizers. And then if we from outside, Madam Speaker, I know we are paying a lot more than we would have done for food if we produce our own fertilizers. If you go to a place like where I come from, you find people don't use fertilizers, but still they harvest. Meaning if they had fertilizers, they would produce a lot more per acre. So the idea that we should actually manufacture locally is something I must support because it will avail fertilizers to more people, and therefore we will be able to produce more. That will reduce even the cost of living, in that we will be getting more agricultural products from within our own country, and we can manage the production so that everybody can be able to get food. Madam Speaker, I support this bill because I realize that if we do produce fertilizers from within, we will also be employing more people to do the manufacturing of the fertilizers. So since we suffer from unemployment to the extent we know, we must be able to think of how we can be able to create employment. And this is just one area that can help us to create employment in this country. I therefore see it that this is one area that we must spend a lot of effort on. To do this sufficiently, I urge that we should train our students on agricultural activities, various types, so that when we begin to manufacture locally, manufacture fertilizers locally, we will be doing that when we have well-trained staff to do this kind of thing, because that's the only way that we can be able to increase food in this country. Madam Speaker, I support this. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, before we proceed, I would like to welcome students seated in the speakers gallery this morning. We have students from Nairobi Comprehensive School, Dagoretti North Constituency, Nairobi County. We also have in the public gallery this morning students from Bishop Lawi Imatthew Primary School, North Imenti Constituency, Meru County, and Koinange Comprehensive School in Kinangop Constituency, Nyandarua County. You are welcome to the National Assembly to continue observing proceedings of the House. And on behalf of the House, I would like to give a chance to the Honorable Mara Kitayama. You are the first one online from Korea East. Please welcome the students, and you may proceed also to debate the motion.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. Madam Speaker, I take this opportunity to first and foremost welcome our students who have found time to come to this august house. This is the people's house. This is your house. This is where you send your members of parliament to come and discuss, debate, and articulate your issues and those that concern the nation at large. And I want to encourage all of you that even as you continue to pursue your studies, that you may find it appropriate that in the course of choosing your careers, choose widely, but if all of you can end up here, then the better, so that we can make Kenya together better together. I also want to take this opportunity to join all parents who have sent their children to school, and then in the process, these children are now going back home. So I'm with you in prayer. This house prays for you for journey mercies as you travel back home, and that you may find favor even at home as you proceed to do your homeworks and studying for that is in your hearts. Thank you for the teachers who have continuously taken care of our children. And as you release them back home, we pray for you also that even in your families, that God may give you blessings because you've done well this term. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if I may contribute to this, and specifically, Madam Speaker, before I contribute, there are students from Gibarori Primary School. Gibarori Primary School is in Kuria East constituency. I want to acknowledge that they are also part of this proceedings today, and I do wish them well. And I also want to thank my teachers, because for this year, Madam Speaker, we were able to take to the university the highest number ever. Kuria East was able to register 713 students going to university, something that has never happened in the past. And I want to thank the collaboration of everyone in Kuria East and the great people of Kuria for this, and the parents who support us. Madam Speaker, back to this motion. Madam Speaker, it is not rocket science that the reason why this government is subsidizing fertilizer so that we can increase production, it is because it is an important thing and it is the right thing to do. So, Madam Speaker, it then goes without saying that the foreign exchange that is used to get this fertilizer into the country, what happens is that we are creating employment in the countries of origin where this fertilizer comes from. And we are also losing in the process, in the exchange, we're also losing monies that we could have used to do something else. And the same monies would have used to set up fertilizer factories. Then we have to employ the thousands and thousands of students that we churn out of our universities every year. Madam Speaker, I also want to note that in the beginning of this program of subsidy, Madam Speaker, it was met by a lot of skepticism. But now that it has become successful, now we have even new emerging challenges where now cartels have moved into this space and be able to get fertilizer cheaply. They hoard it and then they start selling it at exorbitant prices when now they are off market in the stores. Madam Speaker, establishing our own factories here, in addition to creating employment and making sure that we have timely supply of fertilizer, it also breeds and encourages research. Because, Madam Speaker, our universities, and we thank our universities for the good work that they are doing. But, Madam Speaker, this is another area that we are able to again provide space for research to be done, and therefore broaden the minds and the knowledge of our people, even as we are firm that we are as good as we know. The entire world knows that we are very good. We have very, very innovative young people, and world over you go, you'll find a Kenyan in some research institutions, some factories, you know, we have very, very brilliant young people. And this is the right way to go so that we're able to create space for them to contribute to this nation building. Madam Speaker, I do support and I do pray that this House is going to not only pass this motion, also that implementation committee will also push it to the level that we actually see action. And I want to urge the executive that this is an area that one would easily find favor with the people of Kenya if we were to invest appropriately in this area. And also, of course, urge the trade departments so that we can have laws that are friendly, so that investors are able to come in a friendly way and in an easy way, so that there is ease of doing business. And in the process, everybody then goes home feeling that this country is that country that they can destine. And as they do so, then they're also able to create further use and be useful in this part of the world. Madam Speaker, I support and I thank you for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Member for Kuria East. Honorable members, I understand that the Deputy Speaker, you had agreed that whoever wants to contribute to this motion to go to the intervention button. So let's follow that. The Honorable Zamzam Chimba, Member for Mombasa County.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kunipa fursa hii. Kwanza niweze kuambia watu wangu wa Mombasa, nimekuwa likizo karibu miezi miwili, hamkuniona nikiwa na ugua, lakini nimerudi na niona bunge na nimerudi na tuanze kuchapa kazi. Mheshimiwa Spika, nachukua fursa hii kuweza kumpongeza Mheshimiwa Atandi kwa kuleta mjadala huu leo ambao anasisitiza kuwa tuweze kuwa na viwanda vyetu vya mbolea ili tukiwa na vyetu ama pia vile viwanda ambavyo tuko navyo kuweza kuongezea, maanake ilikuwa tunachukua mbolea kutoka nje kwa sababu viwanda vyetu havikuweza kutosheleza wakulima wote. Kwa hiyo mimi naweza kusema serikali ikiwekeza kwenye kujenga viwanda hapa Kenya vya mbolea itaweza kutuletea faida kubwa sana. Vijana wetu watapata ajira, na tunajua kuwa wakati huu na hata baada ya corona vijana wengi walipoteza kazi zao sana na nafasi za kazi zimekuwa haba. Kwa hiyo tukijenga viwanda vingi, tukiongezea viwanda vya mbolea, itakuwa imetoa nafasi ya ajira kwa vijana wetu katika taifa hili. Jambo la pili, Mheshimiwa Spika, hapa nafikiri mwaka jana Mheshimiwa Naibu wa Spika dada yetu Mheshimiwa Gladys Sholei aliweza kuleta mjadala wa mbolea ambazo zilikuwa zinaingia katika taifa hili, zilikuwa na sumu, ikawa wakulima wanatumia na hawakujua, kwa sababu ilileta maradhi mengi sana kama kansa, mambo ambayo yalikuwa ya kutamausha sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Na katika ubora wa bidhaa Mheshimiwa Spika, pengine ni sisi wenyewe tuweze kuwa na viwanda vyetu hapa Kenya, na tunaweza kufanya uchunguzi wa kutosha tukajua kuwa bidhaa hizi zinazotoka katika kiwanda fulani ni bidhaa ambazo ziko katika sawa ukiangalia afya na mazingira Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo tukiwa na viwanda vyetu vya mbolea, itakuwa hata afya yetu na mazingira yetu yatakuwa sawa, kwa sababu tutakuwa tunaangalia bidhaa ubora wa bidhaa katika taifa Mheshimiwa Spika. Jambo lingine Mheshimiwa Spika, mazingira yetu ama udongo wetu tofauti na udongo wa mataifa ambao sisi tunatoa mbolea Mheshimiwa Spika, na pengine tukiwa na viwanda vyetu hapa itakuwa inaangaliwa udongo wetu unazalisha vipi. Tukiongeza hii mbolea itakuwa ina muhimu, itakuwa ina afadhali katika mazao ama italeta madhara Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo itakuwa sisi tunatengeza mbolea ambayo inalingana na ile hali ya ardhi na udongo wetu Mheshimiwa Spika. Jambo lingine Mheshimiwa Spika, amezungumza Mheshimiwa Atandi kuwa katika miaka miwili iliyopita Kenya imetumia takriban shilingi bilioni 50 kuweza kuleta mbolea ambayo inakuwa katika ile subsidies ama bei ya kupungua Mheshimiwa Spika. Na ukiangalia mpaka sasa wakulima wanapanga foleni katika cereal board wakiweza kutafuta mbolea, wanakesha pale Mheshimiwa, ili waweze kupata mbolea ambayo iko na bei nafuu Mheshimiwa Spika. Lakini ikiwa tutaongeza viwanda vyetu Mheshimiwa Spika, haya mapeni yote ambayo tumepeleka mataifa ya nje, tutaweza tukaboresha mbolea yetu na tukauza katika bei nafuu, kwa sababu tutakuwa na viwanda vya kutosha Mheshimiwa Spika. Hivyo tunaweza kupunguza budget ya kuweza kutoa bidhaa kutoka nje Mheshimiwa Spika. Jambo lingine Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nataka kuweza kusema kuwa tukiweza kutoa ama kuimport bidhaa kutoka nje, unapata tunatumia pesa nyingi katika clearance na mambo mengi, yanakuwa mbolea wakati mwingine inakaa katika kule bandarini kingoja clearance kwa muda mrefu, na wakulima huku wamekaa wanasubiri kupata mbolea, Mheshimiwa Spika. Lakini viwanda vyetu vikiwa vimeongezwa hapa Kenya, mkulima anaweza akaingia katika kiwanda chochote akanunua mbolea na akaweza kulima kwa wakati. Wengi leo wanalalamika kuwa mvua imeanza, shamba zao wamelima lakini hawawezi kupanda kwa sababu ya uadhimu ama ukosefu wa mbolea, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo tukiweza kuleta mbolea ambao ni itakuwa ya hapa nyumbani, itaweza kurahisisha sana, wakulima watakuwa wanapata mbolea kwa wepesi na hivi kuweza kulima na kupanda kwa wakati mwafaka, Mheshimiwa Spika. Na jambo lingine pia itazidisha uchumi wa taifa yetu, manake pesa nyingi tunazipeleka nje, lakini ikiwa bajeti yetu tutafanya na mapeni yanazunguka katika taifa letu, Mheshimiwa Spika, itakuwa yani faida kubwa inarudi katika taifa, Mheshimiwa Spika. Na awali ya yote itakuwa pia tumepunguza maradhi, kina mama wamelazwa mahospitali kwa sababu ya chakula ama vyakula ambavyo wamekuwa kila ambavyo vimetumika mbolea za kutoka nje, na mbolea aina hizo zimethibitika, hata alivyosema dada yetu Mheshimiwa Gladys Cholei alilia sana hapa katika bunge, akasema hizi mbolea zimekuwa ndio chanzo cha maradhi hapa Kenya, Mheshimiwa Spika. Ukiangalia ardhi yetu, ubora wa ardhi, ubora wa ule udongo umeweza kupotezwa kwa sababu hizi mbolea zimekuja zikaharibu mazingara, na maji yakitoka katika udongo yakiingia kwenye mito yetu, unapata watu wanakunywa maji ambayo ina sumu, Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa sababu ya kuweza kupitisha mbolea aina fulani ambazo zimetoka nje, Mheshimiwa Spika, na zimejipata katika vyakula vyetu na watu wamekula na wamekuja wakapata maradhi ambayo wengi wao wamepoteza maisha yao, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo mimi naunga sana mkono, nasema hapa vijana watapata ajira, afya itakuwa bora, chakula kitakuwa kwa wingi katika taifa, na malalamishi pia yatapungua, Mheshimiwa Spika, manake mtu yoyote mwenye njaa lazima atapiga kelele, lakini akiwa ameshiba na ameshiba chakula ambacho ni kizuri ambacho hasai maradhi, hata katika hospitali pia tutapunguza foleni za watu wenye kuingia na maradhi, Mheshimiwa Spika, ambayo inatokana na chakula ambacho kimeingia sumu, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo mimi nimpongeze sana Mheshimiwa Atandi kuweza kuleta huu mjadala ambao ni muhimu sana kwa Wakenya, ila na mimi napenda kusema hivi, wakulima waangaliwe vizuri, Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa sababu hao ndo wanatupa lishe bora, hao ndo wanafanya Wakenya wanakuwa na shibe, Mheshimiwa Spika. Waweze pia hata tukifungua viwanda vyetu, bei ya mbolea iweze kushuka chini, kwa sababu wengi wanapanga foleni katika National Cereals Board kutafuta mbolea, kwa sababu mbolea ya pale huwa ina wepesi wa bei. Lakini tukifungua viwanda vyetu na tupunguze bei, pia tutakuwa tumewafanyia nafuu, na itakuwa wao wakulima wanalima wakiwa na raha na bidhaa vitatoka vizuri. Kenya itakuwa ni Kenya iliyostawi, kwa sababu tunasema ukulima ndio uti wa mgongo wa taifa, na wao wakulima wakiwa na raha, basi sisi pia wa Kenya tutakuwa na furaha. Asante sana, Mheshimiwa Spika.
Asante sana mbunge wa Mombasa. Ningependa kuchukua fursa hii kukaribisha wanafunzi wetu ambao wamekuja kutembelea bunge, ambao wameketi katika ukumbi wa spika kutoka shule ya Giba Rosi JSS, Kuria East, Migori County. Tuwakaribishe katika bunge. Na pia katika ukumbi wa umma tuko na wanafunzi kutoka Townview Primary ambayo iko Oljororok, Nyandarua County. Karibuni katika bunge muweze kufuatilia mambo yanayoendelea katika bunge. Na ningependa kumuita kiongozi bunge, Mheshimiwa Naomi Wako, ambaye ni mbunge wa Marsabit County, aweze kuwakaribisha na pia kuchangia katika mada.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for allowing me to contribute to that, as I also welcome the students from different schools. Honorable Speaker, it is great to have young people to come and see what happens here in Parliament. And it is through this that they learn. Mine is just to welcome them, to Parliament as they observe and see what is happening, and also encourage them to work very hard, study, so that they can become great people in future. It wasn't easy for us to be here. It wasn't easy for us to study because some of us come from very humble background. But today we are here legislating and seeing how best we can run this government. So it is upon our students, together with their parents, the teachers, combine efforts so that they can be great people in future, and also some of them represent the nation sometime in future in this parliament. So mine is to wish you all the best as you study hard, and also encourage the teachers also, because many of us are who we are because of the investment that the teachers made. And mine is also to encourage the teachers, the parents also, to continue supporting their children. Honorable Speaker, the issue of fertilizer and having our own production and manufacturing here in our country is the most important thing that we can discuss today. And I want to encourage many of us to debate on this, because many Kenyans are farmers and they are depending on our contribution and our guidance. And through our contributions, then we can be able to see the direction the country can take. I also want to congratulate Honorable Atandi for coming up with this very timely motion. And it is my prayer that the committee will give this all the attention it deserves, and that it will be implemented soon. Honorable Speaker, our country, as I said, we have so many farmers who depend on farming. Although these days the rains, we cannot depend a lot on the rains, many of our people, many of Kenyans have educated their children through farming, and many of them are still passionate. Unfortunately, today the young people are not interested in farming, but that is the only place that we can invest in and also earn our living. Honorable Speaker, it is the only place that we can create employment for our young people, and it's also for grown-ups who are, taking care of their families and looking for funds. Honorable Speaker, the country currently depends on the imported manufacturers, which is very unfortunate. 50 years, 60 years after independence, we are still importing fertilizer from outside. We are creating employment there. We are giving people a lot of opportunity, and yet we are denying our locals that opportunity. So the more we encourage the local manufacturers, the better for our country. If we do that, then we will be able to harvest more, because if we depend on the outside manufacturers and the importation, of course, sometimes there are delays here and there. And sometimes, like this time now, the farmers want to plant, and yet the fertilizers are not there, because the cartels have also taken advantage and they are trying to play in between, and it is disadvantageous to our farmers. But if we have our local manufacturers, productions will be done on time, and everything will be relevant even to the soil and everything. The farmers will be able to buy at a cheaper rate than what we are now spending. And that means then we have created job employment for our local people. We also use our own resources to manufacture and to produce. We have also released the fertilizers on time for the farmers to use. Honorable Speaker, it is only when we will produce our own fertilizers we will be able to have quick solutions to the challenges that will come as we do our planting and as we try to do different things. We will also be able to increase our food production, because the farmers will easily collect their fertilizers and they'll be able to use them. We will be able also to grow economically, because currently our country is going through so many things. And it is only when the government has given the subsidized fertilizers that our food production has gone up. And I want to encourage our government and especially our president, who is so passionate, to continue with the same passion, because it is only through that we can have food security in our country. Honorable Speaker, as I said, job creation will be there. And then the low cost, as I said, because it is locally produced, will be able to overcome the high cost now. Honorable Speaker, I agree with the motion that the national government, through the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, supports and promotes local fertilizers manufacturing industries by investing in research and development to booster the domestic fertilizer manufacturing sector. That is the only way we can create our own wealth. That is the only way we can grow our farmers. That is the only way we can encourage our young people who have the knowledge in farming and doing agricultural business, and also those who are good at doing research. We can be able to utilize their skills. Honorable Speaker, with those few remarks, I support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Professor Phyllis Barto, member for Moiben.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to also contribute to this motion on fertilizer, and also to thank Honorable Thandi for also bringing this motion to the House. Madam Speaker, I come from a very important region in this country, the breadbasket of Kenya, and that is Uasin Gishu. And fertilizer is a very key component in my region. Madam Speaker, when the current government came in place, they gave farmers promises, and one of them was subsidy, the fertilizer subsidy. Madam Speaker, and that was a way of building capacity for farmers so that they can increase productivity, and also having been a product of farming, because that is how I was educated. I am a professor, courtesy of maize growing by my parents. It is unfortunate that, Madam Speaker,
Honorable Barto, for the sake of the students and to encourage them, I would like you to say you are a professor in which field?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the students in the House, I would want to welcome you to this very important house where laws of the land are made. My name is Professor Phyllis Barto, Member of Parliament, Moiben constituency. And formerly, before I became a Member of Parliament, I was a Professor of Linguistics at Egerton University for the last 25 years. So I welcome you, and I want to encourage you to work hard in school, be disciplined, be focused, and one time you may find yourselves here, or you will be very senior, important members of the Republic of Kenya, including even being the President of the Republic of Kenya. Karibuni sana, and feel at home. On the issue of fertilizer, as I've said, Madam Speaker, I was a beneficiary of having gotten a chance to go to school because my father or my parents were farmers. It is important that we encourage local manufacturers, Madam Speaker, because we have come of age as a country. We have the best researchers in the country who can test our soil and determine the kind of fertilizer and the quality of fertilizer we require. We no longer need to depend on imports from countries where we are not even sure of the quality, and given the situation where we cannot control their entry, because sometimes our officers at the entry are compromised. Madam Speaker, we look at the case in point right now. In my constituency or in my county, it is the planting season. We are supposed to be planting, and we should have started even as early as last month. Madam Speaker, I can tell you, the stress the farmers are undergoing in the North Rift is not something to, I mean, it is very painful. In my constituency, Muiben, I have three regions or cooperatives who are picked to be distributing fertilizers to the farmers. At the moment, in progressive, the farmers are queuing, there is no fertilizer. When you go to your teach in Sedgoit ward, the farmers are queuing, there is no fertilizer. At the National Cereals Board in Eldoret itself, there is no fertilizer, Madam Speaker. If we can encourage our local manufacturers, our own, to manufacture that fertilizer and support it, they'll ensure that the fertilizer is available and it is timely. They will also ensure that the fertilizer is available throughout the year so that the farmers don't have to be waiting until the planting season. So they rush to the cereals and they go and they queue, and sometimes some of them go back without getting it, and it becomes very expensive. Madam Speaker, if this fertilizer is availed and it is done by the local manufacturers, it is also going to promote it is going to create employment for our young people. I am imagining if we will be having several manufacturers pitched in several parts of Kenya, all these young people, these researchers, these young scholars who have gone to school and they have done, they are experts in agriculture, would be utilized. And that's also another way of creating employment. And in that case, it will ease the burden of government and the young people. Like the other case we had, I saw on social media that there's a group of youth who have started a party called Jobless Youth in Kenya, and they want to register it as a political party. I mean, we should be creative and look for avenues where we have local manufacturers creating job opportunities and also supporting society. Madam Speaker, the issue of fertilizer is also very key, and it will enable us also to be exporters. Why is it that we should be receiving from other countries, yet we have capacity in Kenya and enough for Africa, and even export outside countries like China, where most of the fertilizer people bring it. And we have the ingredients, we have the scholars, we have the capacity, we have the brains. What are we waiting for? I think it's high time we take it seriously and implement it. It should not just be a matter of debating it here in the House, and then from there it goes to the archives and nothing happens. We should walk the talk. Let us encourage, let us promote our local manufacturing, let them even begin work as soon as yesterday, so that come next year, we will be having enough fertilizer. Last year, our farmers were duped to buy very substandard fertilizer. And even the production was very poor, especially last year, because so many of them went to sellers and they bought very expensive and very useless fertilizer, or even fertilizer which is not suitable for their soil, because because of the scarcity and because of the shortage and the desperation, every farmer was willing to just pay something to get fertilizer so that they plant. Because the planting season in Kenya is very definite. You miss it and you lose it. Sometimes when it is your turn to plant and you don't have the fertilizer, it becomes problematic. So, Madam Speaker, I am very happy that this motion is being debated today, and I'm looking forward that we will not be, I mean, sooner we will be seeing our entrepreneurs, our manufacturers rolling and starting the manufacturing business, so that our farmers, just other than just saying we are building capacity for farmers, we are enabling them, we are giving subsidy. Let us subsidy remain with our local manufacturers. Let us support our own. Let us grow our own. Let us believe in ourselves. Let us believe in Kenya and believe that it is possible. We shouldn't be looking at our borders and looking for support. We have come of age, Madam Speaker. It is high time now we sit and have confidence in ourselves and support our local manufacturers and support our own, and it will be good all the way. I support the motion.
Thank you. I would like to welcome students seated in the public gallery. We have students from Chelilis Girls Secondary School from Bureti constituency in Kericho County. Welcome to the National Assembly to continue observing proceedings of the House. We can welcome them in our usual way. Thank you. Honorable members, I'll allow the member for Keio North to welcome students. He's the first in line. The Honorable Adams Kipsanai, member for Keio North. You may welcome students and continue the debate.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to welcome our students to this House of Parliament where laws are made. And I want to encourage them that as they pursue their studies, they must have a vision and an interest that one day they are going to serve in this August House. I would also want to thank the parents for putting much more efforts in paying their school fees in order to see their children pursue their education. Welcome to this house and feel encouraged. Madam Speaker, to the motion of today, I would want to thank Honorable Atandi for coming up with this very important motion. Madam Speaker, the issue of fertilizer in this country is very, very important. But that we are the leaders in the region in terms of infrastructure, in terms of digital development, ICT, in terms of the economy, we are giant in the region. But we have failed as a country to sort out the food security of our people. So, Madam Speaker, the motion is even late. The decision to establish a manufacturing of fertilizer in our country is a bit late for us as a country. However, this thing will be very important to our country because this is the only way of guaranteeing food security to our population and also create job opportunities for Kenyans. Kenyan people is blessed to, the Kenya country is blessed to have a young population whereby there are very, very many youth who are unemployed. And this is the only way that they can be encouraged to join agribusiness and also advance themselves economically and have something in their pockets. Secondly, Madam Speaker, is about food safety of the food. Currently in our country and in the world, we have many cases of diseases, mainly caused by what we consume. And when you look at on the issue of diseases, especially cancer, research has shown that mostly is contributed by what we consume as a population. So having a manufacturing farm that takes care of the interest of our population is very, very important. Madam Speaker, farmers are at the moment making minimal profit margins because of the cost of fertilizer. But if we have manufacturing within our country, we are sure that Kenyans will afford fertilizer in a cheap price so that they can have to break the margin. And that is the only way that as a country we are going to stabilize our economy and also help our farmers grow themselves. Madam Speaker, this thing will also help in terms of sorting out the issue of short supply. At the moment, there are many farmers who are trying to beat deadlines. You know, there we have the planting cycles, whereby if you miss the first quarter of the year, especially in the North Rift and other parts of the country, it will be very, very difficult for a farmer to maybe go back and cultivate. And the problem is that there are minimal supply. In as much as the government is putting a lot of energy on subsidized fertilizer, which has cushioned farmers to some extent, it is not helping and curing the problem that has been bedeviling us as a country for a very long time. So having this initiative of establishing a manufacturing of fertilizer in our country will help us sort out all these problems as a country. Lastly, Madam Speaker, is that in as much as we discuss the issue of manufacturing our own fertilizer as a country, we must ask ourselves one pertinent question. The last regime, around 2014, 2016, the Jubilee government started a manufacturing company in Uasin Gishu. But the project didn't take off. And when we ask questions, you will be told that there are other interests that came in. And apart from interest of cartels who are interested in supplying fertilizer, we must also sort out the issue of cost of production. Many people are afraid even to establish farms in Kenya because of the cost of electricity, the cost of establishing a business because of a long list of requirements from licenses, from county, wherever. County governments want something, the national government, KEBS. So it is also high time that we must also reduce the high list of demands for any investor who would want to establish a manufacturing in our country, because that is the only way that it will help us as a country to have our own manufacturing farm that will help the youth to get employment, farmers to get supply on time, the country to be food security, and so forth and so on. Otherwise, I want to say thank you very much to Honorable Atandi. This is very, very important motion that will help our country proceed much further. Thank you very much. And as I wind up also, I must recognize the efforts put by our government of ensuring that in as much as we are having this problem, farmers at least are smiling with some difficulties in putting down their crops. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Danson Mashako, member.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving this opportunity to contribute to this important motion brought to this House by one Honorable Atandi, trying to make sure that the government of this country prioritize the establishment of a factory, to manufacture fertilizer. Honorable Speaker, this country, we are known for very many things. Today, Honorable Speaker, if you look at the things that are happening in this country, we have the best professors, the researchers in our universities. Today, Honorable Speaker, we are one of the countries that have adopted technology in a very fast rate that the world is worried that this country can become first world if the rate at which Kenyans are adopting to technology is sustained. But Honorable Speaker, having very good things to talk about in Kenya, we still are not able to look at our basic requirements as a country. And for the longest time, we've been told that Kenya, we rely, 80% of our population rely on agriculture. And agriculture is the backbone of this country. We've been told this many times. But again, we are so quick to bring, to trade rather than to look at our core issues that affect agriculture in this country. And therefore, this motion that is coming to urge the government to set up a fertilizer plant, it must be supported across the country, across these houses of parliament. But more importantly, Honorable Speaker, government must come up quickly to implement what this House would resolve at the end of this motion. Honorable Speaker, we've been running a national fertilizer subsidy program that has been consuming a lot of resources. Every budget that comes, Honorable Speaker, billions of money are set aside to run the subsidy program, the fertilizer subsidy program. But it gives a lot of, there are many issues that bedevil this national fertilizer subsidy program. Honorable Speaker, you saw recently farmers across the country, raising their voices because fertilizer did not arrive on time. The delays to receive this fertilizer in this country has really disrupted, the patterns of farming in this country, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, yes, we have a national fertilizer subsidy program that this government prides itself that it is working. It has improved the food production. We had the president recently talking about how much now we are able to produce enough food for the country. But Honorable Speaker, questions are asked. The delays that happened this year, this planting season, we've had some members talking about, farmers up to now, some of them have not even received this fertilizer. And yet the planting season is nearing, coming to an end. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, until we realize that this fertilizer subsidy we cannot continue relying on it. It cannot, its sustainability raises a lot of questions. Because we ask ourselves, for how long are we going to subsidize fertilizer? Yes, we've moved it from around 6,000 shillings. Now farmers are buying fertilizer at 2,500. But we're asking ourselves, for how long are we going to continue subsidizing fertilizer in this country? And we know resources are constrained, Honorable Speaker. We cannot continue having, a subsidy that will run to perpetuity. We must start thinking around how to bring, cost of fertilizer down sustainably, because subsidy is not sustainable, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I'll tell you, we have spent over 50 billion shillings subsidizing fertilizer in the last few years. And this is so much money compared to setting up a fertilizer producing. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, this motion is coming at the right time. We need to, quickly move out and ask the government, this House must resolve to even give timelines when this should come to pass, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, if we are to have food security as a country, we cannot continue relying on fertilizer that is imported. You remember during post-COVID-19, there were a lot of disruptions on getting fertilizer to countries. So therefore, farmers really suffered. Today we're talking about the war in Ukraine, Russia versus Ukraine. We have a lot of disruptions when it comes to the supply side of fertilizer in the world. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, a little geopolitical tension across the world, across the fertilizer producing countries like China, like Russia, the US, we will definitely have a problem as a country. And looking across Africa, Honorable Speaker, it is a pity that around our region, we have very few countries. In fact, we don't have any country that is known to be producing or manufacturing fertilizer. In Africa, we only have, countries in the north, that's Algeria, Morocco, Egypt, producing, manufacturing fertilizer. And then we have, of course, South Africa down south, manufacturing fertilizer. That means within our region, we have a huge market, which this country can tap. And the earlier we come up with the fertilizer factory, the better for this country, because we have a huge market. The East African region itself, we pride ourselves, today we are in excess of 250 million people that require to be fed. And therefore, the faster this country becomes a fertilizer producing country or manufacturing country, the better for this region and the better fortunes for this country, so that we can sustain agriculture, we can supply fertilizer to all our neighbors. Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, before I sit, I want to say that the world today, what many countries are moving towards, food security is a big thing. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, as a country, we have no choice. But I'm looking forward to, and I'm happy that this motion has been brought to this House by the chair, the new chair of Budget and Appropriation Committee, that is Honorable Atandi. I'm looking forward to seeing that we put a seed capital, in making that we realize the motion we are discussing today. Because if we can talk around here, and if we don't put resources to make this happen, Honorable Speaker, we will still be talking and nothing comes out of our discussion here, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, I want to ask Chairman Budget, even as we move towards bringing the budget estimates for 2025-2026, the Ministry of Agriculture must create a seed capital that then we will go into research, we'll go into promoting the idea that we're discussing today, whereby we can make Kenya a fertilizer producing country, a fertilizer manufacturing country, so that we can, one, make sure that we have food security, we can improve the yields of our farmers in terms of getting cheap fertilizer. At the same time, we can create employment for many and millions of young people who are out there seeking for jobs and they're not able to get employment, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I stand to support this motion. Thank you, Mheshimiwa Speaker.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Christine Ombaka, member for Siaya County.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I'd like to support my colleague and friend, and Sam Atandi, who also come from Siaya, where I'm the woman rep. He's one of the MPs from there. I want to support this bill because it is a bill that is dealing with food on the table. It's about food security. It's about removing or ensuring that there is no hunger in this country. This country has been known to suffer from hunger, no food. People have died because there is hunger in this country. And when you look at those scenes, you think that the best option now is this bill. This bill is one that will improve the situation that we've seen in the past where people die of hunger. Farmers, I'm receiving messages because people are planting. They want seeds, they want fertilizers, me to support them. As an individual, how can I do it? All counts here. People want me to support them, give them fertilizers. We have fertilizers, yes, but they are subsidized. But even that, the one that is subsidized is still very expensive for our people. They cannot afford it. That's why they want me to step in and support them. It also means that when we produce fertilizers locally, they may be cheaper, they may be possible, it may be possible for many people to access fertilization that can produce fertilizers that will be cheaper, easy to access for farmers to use so that they can produce crops and food for food security. It's that common sense. So I think that it is very, very key that we support this bill. It is very key that we stop importing fertilizers. We have seen what importation has done in the past. They import very fake fertilizers. The ones that cannot help us, the ones that are very dangerous, they are very poisonous, they are not good for food production. And so, if we go local, we may succeed. It will bring the cost down, it will make more people access fertilizers, more farmers will benefit, and they will produce food, and there will be food security. It is that common sense. So we have universities. Our universities have departments of agriculture. We have colleges as well that train people in agriculture. We have Ministry of Agriculture. What are these institutions doing all these years? By now, we should be self-independent. We should be able to have produced our own manures, our own fertilizers, be able to distribute them across the country, and be able to sustain our lives and be able to have access food and put food on our table. So the challenge here is these very institutions that train people in agriculture. Universities, what are they doing? We need an answer from them. What are they doing in terms of producing fertilizers that is cheap, that can do people? What is the Ministry of Agriculture doing? What are these colleges doing? Where are farmers who need these things? We need more farmers, both large-scale farmers and small-scale farmers. Local women who are in the villages, they're also farming, even if they have little gardens and things, but they need fertilizers. I have seen on television some young people trying to come up with fertilizers that they can use to plant some products here and there. But those are small scale. They try, that there's an effort. So we can say that there is initiatives that are very encouraging when we see people coming up with what they can do to improve food production. But if the government comes wholesale on this matter, if it's supported by the local people and is supported by those who know how to farm, this country will be very far. And so I will encourage and will support this bill because it is going to eradicate hunger and poverty, and many people will not die, without food, will not go without food. So the challenge here is how do we sustain and look for funds that we can start big plants that can produce fertilizers for our people. That is the first step. Be on our, we cannot continue to import things that are dangerous, to import fertilizers that we do not know how they are manufactured, how safe they are, and so on and so forth. So the message here, or the issue here, is let's go local, let's make it cheaper, let more people access it, and there be more food on the table and eradicate hunger and poverty in this country. Thank you, Mr. Tandy. This is something that we must go far with because it's in high demand. We need local fertilizers, not imported one. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. The Honorable Wilfer sorry about my Kikamba accent. The Honorable Wilberforce Ondo, member for Funyula.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Sometimes it can be a tongue twister, but you have done your best. Honorable Speaker, allow me to also stand on this floor at this moment to support the motion by Honorable Samuel Atandi regarding supporting and promoting local fertilizer manufacturing industries. Honorable Speaker, for many years, agriculture has been the mainstay of the people of Kenya. For many years, agriculture has been like the black gold for people of Kenya. However, Honorable Speaker, over the years, productivity has reduced considerably for various reasons. Because of overcropping, overplanting, there's also been a result of bad agricultural practices that have literally decimated the good part of the soil. Honorable Speaker, we remember very many during the days of President Daniel Teacher Arap Moi, when he would lead the weekly activities or monthly activities to fix gabions, plant trees in order to manage soil erosion. So there's been a plethora of reasons that has led to soil failure and reduced productivity. Is therefore inevitable, Honorable Speaker, that in many parts in this country, commercial fertilizers, our chemical fertilizers, are becoming almost like a necessity, a requirement for you to produce any food of any value. Honorable Speaker, I come from Busia. We have not been keen consumers or major consumers of fertilizers because our soils have remained fertile and generally have been producing crops adequate to feed ourselves and retain something small for commercial purposes. But Honorable Speaker, for the last few years, that is no longer the case. Crop failure has become preeminent, and therefore it is important that we find ways and means of boosting irrigation of interventions to improve productivity. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, again, on the other side, Honorable Speaker, Kenya consumes about 700,000 metric tons of fertilizer each particular year. It is projected for us to sustain food production, to sustain our economy and population, we might have to consume about 1 billion metric tons of fertilizer the next 2 to 3 years. Our manufacturing capacity, Honorable Speaker, as it stands now, is literally minimal. It is presumed that almost 90% of the fertilizers used in this country is imported. It's imported at heavy cost in terms of foreign exchange, in terms of exported jobs, and in terms of other issues, Honorable Speaker. And that's why any attempt, Honorable Speaker, to urge the government, to urge the executive, both at the national level and the county level, to invest in production of locally produced fertilizer is laudable and should be supported wholeheartedly with all the state organs concerned with this matter. Honorable Speaker, when you speak to Morn manufacturers, under Vision 2030, Honorable Speaker, manufacturing was supposed to account for 15% by the year 2030. As we stand here, Honorable Speaker, is hardly 7%. That means we are lagging behind with less than 5 years to go. One of the reasons that manufacturing has failed to meet its targets is simply because the cost of production in this country is far much higher compared with even importing, even adding the punitive excess duty and other import taxes. The shelf price of many products, including fertilizers, is much cheaper when it's imported than locally produced. I therefore urge the government to look at the factors of production and look at the cost of those factors of production and work strategically to ensure that we reduce those costs of production. Others, Honorable Speaker, what Honorable Tande has asked us to do or to approve or to resolve will merely go to and fill many volumes of unimplementable parliament decisions or policy decisions that cannot be implemented. We now urge, therefore, the Committee of Planning and Finance and National Planning, as well as Budget and Appropriation Committee, the National Assembly, working together with National Treasury, working together with the KIPRA and other economic think tanks to have a serious look, how can we reduce the cost of production? Honorable Speaker, our electricity costs are the highest ever in this part of the world. We cannot compete with Egypt, we can't compete with Ethiopia. Honorable Speaker, our unpredictable tax regime makes it completely difficult and impossible for any manufacturer to have a long-term view or a long-term plan on the matter, how to deal about it. Honorable Speaker, and then of our uncanny habit of cutting corners. Many products in this country, Honorable Speaker, do not meet even local standards in terms of health, in terms of standards set by Kenya Bureau of Standards, to an extent that, Honorable Speaker, whatever we produce, it might not assist us much. It's therefore important, Honorable Speaker, that all the manufacturers that choose to produce fertilizer must adhere to standards set down under the WTO, so that not only producing for the local market, but we must produce competitive products that can compete with other products all over the country. Honorable Speaker, it is also important to appreciate that these manufactured fertilizers contain chemicals, which could turn out to be harmful in the long run, which also deplete the natural ingredients in the soil. Is it possible, therefore, Honorable Speaker, as we vote for production of fertilizers, can we look at natural ways of improving soil fertility? And I'm sure our universities that are agriculture-based can lead the research in this matter. We just hope and pray there is sufficient funding in research and development to enable us proceed. Honorable Speaker, this is not the first time to attempt to set up a fertilizer factory. In the year 2015, around 3rd September, the then Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, who happens to be the president now, went to Eldoret with colors and pumps and launched a local plant to manufacture fertilizers. As is typical of many of the stories that we hear in this country, it was just hot stories. We therefore urge that whoever is interested in this matter, let's now not treat Kenyans to charade or to lies, but to make sure that whatever we purport to do actually happens, Honorable Speaker. As I conclude, Honorable Speaker, we have the subsidized fertilizer. First of all, the mere fact that subsidized is probably again a tax issue as a tax incentive in this country. It's a tax expenditure in this country. We can never continue with subsidies. Many countries in the world have done away with subsidies. We must find ways and means of producing at market price that support the economy or not. And second, final, Honorable Speaker, I also want to get the country to get out of the fixation that for food production, we are only looking at food security. We must produce for money, we must produce for export. We must produce for value addition. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support the motion.
Thank you very much, Professor. Honorable members, help me to welcome students seated in the public gallery this morning. Students from Kate Academy in Ruiru constituency, Kiambu County. And we also have students seated in the speakers gallery this afternoon, students from Guy Secondary School from Mwingi North in Kitui County. You're welcome to the National Assembly to continue observing proceedings of the House. And on behalf of these students, I would like to request the member for Kaiti, students seated both in the public gallery and in the speakers gallery as you contribute to the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. Madam Speaker, I want to welcome the students who are in the House and pupils, and I want to encourage them to learn from this parliament, because tomorrow we expect them to be members of parliament, others to be big people in this country, because it is possible. One day, one time, we used to come to this parliament to follow the proceedings of the parliament, and today we are members of parliament. So I want to encourage them and welcome them to the parliament. And after this, I want to encourage them to go around the parliament to know what is going around in this parliament. Madam Speaker, I want also to take the opportunity to support this motion by Honorable Atandi and say, Madam Speaker, it came at the right time, Madam Speaker, because fertilizer is key in our country. Madam Speaker, when we have our own plant in the country, we can say that we have food security in the country, Madam Speaker, because in some of the areas, Madam Speaker, we have good soils. Like where I come from, Madam Speaker, I come from Makueni County. And in my constituency, Kaiti constituency, we have one of the best soil, Madam Speaker. But because of the rain pattern we get short rains. Madam Speaker, for the farmers in Makueni to get good yield, they need fertilizer. As we are speaking now, Madam Speaker, yesterday I had a very busy day getting calls from my constituents going to Makueni and get that there is no fertilizer. They were calling me as if they think that I can have a solution for them, Madam Speaker. But Madam Speaker, it's key. Fertilizer is key in our country. And if we embrace and support this motion, Madam Speaker, and have our own plant in this country, Madam Speaker, I think this is something which can help this country, because it can also create employment, Madam Speaker. Right now, as we are talking, people are crying. Kenyans are crying. They are loitering in the streets looking for jobs. Having our own plants, Madam Speaker. I went to China 2 years ago, Madam Speaker, and I visited a plant, a fertilizer plant, and I was shocked to get a plant which has more than 3,000 workers, Madam Speaker. In this country, if we have our own plants to produce fertilizer, Madam Speaker, we can employ many youths who are loitering, who are looking for jobs, Madam Speaker, and that can help the living standards of Kenyan, Madam Speaker. As I was sharing with my colleague, Honorable Caleb Amisi, he was talking like, he was like crying here, Mr. Speaker, because he was talking of the constituents are calling him. Even when you look at him, he looked like someone who is very tired. He did not sleep because of lack of fertilizer in his constituency. And you know, he comes from the areas whereby they depend on agriculture, Madam
Member
Speaker.
for Kaiti, has the Honorable Caleb Hamisi allowed you to describe him?
But Madam Speaker, I think I was trying to describe, because we were discussing about fertilizer here a few minutes ago. And Madam Speaker, I pity him because of the challenge we are facing in our country. Shortage of fertilizer. I was trying to put my point clear to see the challenge we are having, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, if we can have our own plant here in this country, Madam Speaker, the challenge we are facing as a country can be sorted once and for all. Madam Speaker, even if we have our own plant here, Madam Speaker, the prices of fertilizer will go down and it will be affordable to Kenyans, Madam Speaker. This can also improve the living standards of our people, Madam Speaker. People are crying for fees. Madam Speaker, the kind of economy we have in our country currently, Madam Speaker, needs people to do
some businesses, others to do serious farming so that they can get money to pay school fees, Madam Speaker. And this can be improved by having our own plant in our country, whereby this can create more jobs and can also create income to our people, Madam Speaker. With this kind of local plant in our country, Madam Speaker, with the kind of rain pattern we get in our country, Madam Speaker, I think because some parts of the country get short rains, and with the short rain, they can plant the crops which need short rains, and with fertilizers, Madam Speaker, they can have get a good yield, which will help them improve their living standards, Madam Speaker. The only, Madam Speaker, way of employment in most of parts of the country is only farming, Madam Speaker. Because if you get the percentage of the farmers we have in the country, you get most of the people, they are farmers. Most of the people, when they retire from their offices, they go back to their villages and do farming. Madam Speaker, we need to encourage this, because when people are farming, when people are to their villages and do farming, we are also trying to congest the city, Madam Speaker, because this will also help in rural to urban migration. Because, Madam Speaker, the way things are in this country, we need to start congesting this city. We need to have people migrating from the city, Madam Speaker. Because now people are coming here to look for jobs. There are no jobs. But if they go back to their villages, Madam Speaker, they can go and do farming and earn something. And that can encourage people to go back to their villages, Madam Speaker. And this is one way of avoiding rural to urban migration, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have good institutions in our country, Madam Speaker, even including our universities, Mr. Speaker. The research, they can do a good research. They can also help in improving, getting the right quality of machines we need in the country. They can also give a good quality chemicals we need to make a good fertilizer in our country. And Madam Speaker, I think this can also help in this country to do a good farming, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I want to support this mission, and I say I want to urge all the members of Parliament in this House to support this mission, because this is very important to our country and it also help our youth. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Caleb Luyai, member for Saboti.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to also add my voice to this very important motion. I didn't want to interrupt my very good friend, Honorable Kimilu, when he mentioned me, but I can assure him that he has no power to carry my, I saw him trying to pity my situation in Trans Nzoia. He has no power, only God has power to carry all my burden. Madam Speaker, the very first sentence of this motion, the motion mover is aware that the Fertilizer and the Animal Foodstuff Act 2015 provides for the regulation of fertilizer importation in the country, and the further awareness that the Fertilizer and Animal Foodstuffs Board regulates the fertilizer and animal foodstuffs industry, including the manufacture and production of fertilizer. So we are aware of the existence of legislations, acts, policies. There are a number of SAGAs, semi-autonomous government agencies, that have been established in the Ministry of Agriculture. I think Ministry of Agriculture has one of the largest number of SAGAs among the ministries that we have as a country. We talk of KEFIS, we talk of CARO, that was famous formerly CARI. We talk of the Agricultural Food Authority that has several departments for each crops. They have pyrethrum, they have maize, they have sorghum, cashew nuts for the coastarians. They have sugar, tea, coffee, name them, all under one umbrella, AFA. And I can go on and go on. Very many departments that have been established, some from the crop side, others from the animal side. We are blessed with fauna and flora as a country. So we supposed to be sufficient. When we look at how agriculture was established as a backbone of this nation, we look at the history of the colonialists. When the British colonizers arrived here, they did not single out Kenya as a mineral destination. Kenya was not a gold-rich nation. It was not an oil-rich nation. The British established a colony here because they discovered Kenya as an agriculture-rich nation. And we have since moved out of there. We are no longer, the agriculture is no longer the backbone of this republic. We are moving other economic frontiers. But you cannot stand strong as a nation if you are not food sufficient. The superpowers are strong. The Russia has held Europe by its neck or bells because of being food sufficient. Ukraine has become at the center of the global war because of being a food sufficient nation. You cannot become a superpower. Kenya has prided itself for being an East African hegemony, but we can no longer flourish in the past glory of being an East African hegemony. Why? Because we neglected our very backbone that made our economy strong. Agriculture and fertilizer. Fertilizer is at the very center of the bone marrow of our economy, which is agriculture. When we look at how developed nations, what we call the developmental nations of the ASEAN countries, and ASEAN, I refer to the Association of the Southeast Asian Nations, led by Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, South Korea, Taiwan. These nations were at par, or some were actually trailing Kenya in terms of GDP. They all faced the same colonial colonial masters. At the same point, we were all colonized as the ASEAN countries. What made them have a step ahead? It's not that they suddenly discovered mineral or something. They emphasized on the agriculture, which was their strength, just like agriculture is the strength of most African nations. They improved their production, value addition. They maximize profit out of agriculture. Apart from making broad, what we call broad coalitions to cater for their internal politics, just like we've been having broad-based government, so that to have a conducive political environment to flourish as a nation, they emphasize on local food production that were able to be sold internationally, textile industry, and the emphasis on the institutions, bureaucratic institutions that made sure that there's no corruption, there are no cabal system that will get established, which has always been a problem as a country. We need not to overemphasize on legislation on things to do with fertilizer. We do have enough legislation. It is good this motion brings a discourse for the nation to discuss where have we gone wrong. But it is far away from trying to lead us into having more acts, legislation, more bills, more policies. We do have enough. We must cultivate a culture of nation that wants to flourish and develop and become an international giant. That culture is missing. That culture is missing in our leadership. That culture is missing in our top leadership, and it trickles down to the line ministries up to the local level. We must establish a culture of proper leadership, good leadership that determines where the nation is, where the nation was and where the nation needs to go. Before you start thinking about legislation, which we have in plenty, we need to establish a country that has a right thinking leadership right from the top. If we have it rose at the top, then you don't expect miracles at the bottom. This is not bottom up, this is top down. You have to come from top to bottom. I can see my friend looking at me almost coming to give a rejoinder, but that is how we will make our country better. You must start from top to bottom. In terms of corruption, the rest of the things you can do from bottom to up. But in terms of corruption and making sure that the proper leadership in this country that directs the nation to the right way, you must start from the top. And I dare say that we have messed this country right from the top. That's where we need to start. When you say fertilizer industry has cartels, where are these cartels flourishing without the topmost leadership intervention? We must ask the questions. Those bitter questions we must ask ourselves. And that's why our nations, African nations, are lagging behind, because we never discovered that what ails us. The Asian countries discovered. That's why they say that developmental states that are in the category of developmental states. Some, you can call it mercantilism, where the trade surplus makes the country flourish. You can call it Marxism, you can call it capitalism, but all in all, you must discover the strengths of a nation and develop it from there. And to me, agriculture remains to be the strength of this nation, and we must cultivate. So if the area of fertilizer is not an area that you need to emphasize in terms of legislation. This is an area that needs good culture of leadership. I mean, our natural resources, our treasury, our treasury, and they are just there. Sagas that exist for production, for research, and they are there. That's where we need to start. We do not need to establish another saga when there is already another saga that whose primary responsibility is for production of vaccine. We have Kevevapi, we have the Kenya Veterinary, we have the Calro, we have the Kefis. We can name and name them. They are there, but what are they doing? We need to establish and look at what authority formed these sagas. Why do they exist? What have they done so far? If they don't do them, then can we now merge them or restructure them so that we don't waste so much of our resources towards moribund organization? Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I support.
Is it a point of order? Okay. Honorable members, I would like to welcome students from Moi Educational Center, Langata constituency, Nairobi County. Honorable members, help me to welcome them. You are welcome to the National Assembly to observe proceedings of the House. And I would like to give a chance to the Honorable Buyer to welcome students in the absence of the Honorable Member for Suba, leader in the House who had expressed interest to welcome these students. So the Honorable Buyer, you proceed, and then you may also proceed to debate.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to welcome the students to this honorable chamber, this august chamber that has leaders elected from all over the country for them to observe the proceedings of this House. I want to urge them and ask them to work very hard in school and to aspire to be leaders and to aspire to one this chamber as leaders, not as students. And I want to wish them all the best in their studies, and let them enjoy their time in school, do their best, and come out as great leaders, just like they are in this House. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I want to make my contribution to supporting and promoting local fertilizer manufacturing industry. But before I do that, I want to tell the Honorable Caleb Amisi, the member from one of the Trans Nzoia constituencies. Caleb Amisi, you know, he's still held up in the 19th century politics of Marxism, of mercantilism, and that almost 18th, 19th century stuff. I see a lot of his writings on Twitter and all that, but I see his mind is actually fixated there. And I want to tell him that did not help the world. Russia collapsed, Yugoslavia collapsed because of these same principles that trying to say must adopt to move forward in development. We are in a new era of thinking and ideologies in this world. Capitalism has still remained as the principal anchor of development in the world. Capitalism still is the anchor for money making in the world and to equalize nations. Socialism and Marxism and all those kind of things that were there, and fascism that were there during the 18th, 19th century have been bypassed and nations have collapsed. This country, Caleb Amisi, will move on a trajectory of developmental issues that are anchored properly in agriculture. The agrarian revolution still persists. We must invest
Yes,
in agriculture.
the Honorable Caleb Hamisi, you have a point of order? Normally the best would be to put an intervention instead of raising your hand, but I give you the chance.
Yeah, I was struggling to put it, but I think it's now working. Madam Speaker, I think with due respect to my colleague and the leader of this House, is that he has diverted from the motion. The motion was not discussing Caleb Amisi ideology. The motion was discussing fertilizer. I will bring here another motion that will discuss Caleb Amisi ideology, and the honorable member will have enough time to contribute. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Order now. You believe that he is irrelevant?
He's irrelevant and is continuously mentioning my name and attaching some ideologies that I don't follow towards my name. And it's not even, he has not brought a substantive motion to discuss my name.
All right.
Before you respond, I keenly followed what the Honorable Bayer said. I believe that he was just reacting to what you had said, which is allowed in the House. It's a house of debate. I did not see him being irrelevant. So they're out of order.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to say this. This country, Kenya, already has factories that manufacture fertilizer. And that is a fact. If you look at what we have in the country, the question that we have is the fertilizer being manufactured in this country enough? It is not enough. So how do we fill in the gap? We can only fill in the gap if we get other investors to come and invest in the country to have more fertilizer plants, to manufacture more fertilizer, so that our farmers can have enough fertilizer for their farms. On the upshot of that, Honorable Speaker, if we have more fertilizer manufactured in the country, we reduce our foreign exchange, the use of our foreign exchange to import fertilizer. Foreign import has been one of the problems that has caused us the imbalance of trade between this country and other countries. We continue to import even things that we must not import. What I want to see is more investors, and I want to ask the people of Trans Nzoia to demand from their MP that he invites more investors in Trans Nzoia to set up fertilizer manufacturing plants there so that the farmers can get cheaper fertilizer. Honorable Speaker, regions that would have given us very big output.
Majority Whip, you seem to be attracting a lot of points of order. You have another point of order from the member for Newla.
Honorable Speaker, I think my good friend is just going on, is just diverting the attention. Honestly speaking, it's not the business. It cannot be the sole business of Honorable to go scouting for investors to come and invest in Trans Nzoia in a fertilizer manufacturing plant. It's on record that the current president has globetrotted this world for the last 3 to 4 years, and yet nothing, even a single fertilizer factory has been set up. I think just restrict yourself to the debate.
What exactly is out of order?
I know it's political out of order to incite the members of public against Honorable Hamisi for no apparent reason.
And you have made your point. As far as I'm concerned, Honorable Bayer, just try to focus to the subject matter, because now I'm forced to also defend the Honorable Hamisi. And also in the interest of time, I see about 6 people would like to speak. Honorable members, we did not agree on reducing time, so you still have 10 minutes. But if all of you would like to speak, you may choose to speak for 4 to 5 minutes.
Okay.
So that most of you can be covered.
I'll restrict
Kindly
myself to
finalize.
5 minutes, Honorable Speaker, so that I can save time. But I also want to say this, Honorable Speaker. You see, investors coming into this country to invest, one, they bring in foreign direct investment into the country. Foreign direct investment helps this country to grow its GDP. Again, when investments are made here, productivity goes up. When the productivity of the country goes up, then of course we become a more food secure country. And I want to urge leaders, even as they point out mistakes of this ministry is not doing this, this is not doing this, also to look at it as they're also leaders. When you say you must start at the top for many things, you are at the top in the county. There's somebody at the top of the county. There's somebody at the top of the constituency. It takes all of us to hold hands together to ensure that we move this country forward. And a leader at the top uses others to influence change. Change cannot be influenced if other leaders are not joining hands to try to influence. We must bring change in the area of manufacture of fertilizer in this country. We must bring change in the areas of agriculture in this country to ensure we are food secure as a country. And this motion by the Honorable Samatande is at its best place that we discuss it at this time when the rains are here. The rains are here, farmers are looking for fertilizer, but the scarcity of fertilizer, not that there is not enough, there is enough, there is fertilizer in the country. Not enough, of course, but we can do better as a country when we ensure that we have more investors coming in to invest in the area of fertilizer. Seeds, for example, Honorable Speaker, my constituency and where I come from, everybody is saying, we want seeds, we want planting material, we want things that can help us grow food. The people in this country are not lazy. They are industrious people who know if they grow food, they'll become food secure, they'll become food sufficient, and poverty will leave their homes. But then what as leaders are we doing to ensure that we give them planting materials to ensure that we have more food? So I want to support you, my brother Samatandi, for the good thoughts, because this is thinking good for a country. This is good thoughts for a country, that we actually must manufacture more fertilizer in the country, Honorable Speaker. And we have bumper harvest. The prices of goods come down. Inflation comes down. When inflation comes down, there's less expenditure, and therefore, when we have inflation that is down, there's more savings in the families and more disposable income for families, and therefore they are able to pay school fees for their children and do development for themselves. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to urge everybody that is able to ensure that we have this, even members of parliament here, there are other members of parliament like Samatandi who has enough disposable income to set up a small fertilizer factory in his village. The Millie here, I know she can set up another small factory for fertilizer, make some money out of it, but also help the farmers. Professor Undo there, he's a good professor, he's worked for many years, he has enough money to invest into a small fertilizer. And even Gelechei, if everybody goes the cottage industry way and sets up a small fertilizer factory in their constituency, we'll bring down the cost of food production. And even the Honorable Speaker, I know the people of Mutomo want a small fertilizer factory, and you have some money, set up a small fertilizer factory there so that you can bring down. I can see Millie is smiling because she's thinking about tomorrow. Because she has money. But if everybody does that, if everybody invests in agriculture, we make this country a better country, making it food sufficient, and agricultural produce actually transit to manufacturing. Because if you have if you have enough milk, you can set up a small milk production center. And when we have industries being set and manufacturing being set, we solve the problem of joblessness and we solve the problem of poverty in this country. And therefore, I want to urge anybody who has money somewhere, instead of going to do other things, set up factories for fertilizer, for better seeds, and better planting materials so that we increase our output in agriculture in this country. And that way we make Kenya a better country. I thank you, and I want to support my brother Samatandi on this motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, I would like to give a chance to the member for Turkana North. I'm very sorry, I didn't know that you're in the house. the Honorable Ekon Naibun.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this chance to put my voice on. Growing up in the northern Kenya, those early years when we were in school, we were being told this country, agriculture is the backbone of the economy. That narrative has continued to date. Madam Speaker, it's surprising that we are told manufacturing is focus of subsequent governments for a while now. But when you look at what the government is doing to set up manufacturing institutions, whether it is medicine, whether it is fertilizer, much is not being done. Now, looking at the agriculture part that requires fertilizer, I hear the leader saying that there are a number of manufacturing institutions or companies, but at the same time, he confirms that the supplies of these fertilizers to farmers still remains low. So that means then that the country has not done much in terms of manufacturing fertilizer. We still import fertilizer. Our farmers are struggling to receive and utilize the fertilizers that we are told they are being imported. At the same time, the agriculture, the areas that would have been put into agriculture in this country are so much. 60% of this country is arid. But Madam Speaker, you realize these arid areas have been neglected. Nobody has ever even thought of setting up agricultural areas, spaces. When indeed, if the country was focused on doing or producing food in this country, it would produce sufficient food for all of us and even for import. I want to give example of the area where I come from and where we've been pushing for the government to set up agricultural space. This area recently had issues of invasion by an external militia. This area is called Toronya. That area would have, for a long time, has been, proposed for agriculture, but that has never happened. And what causes some of the clashes and deaths is Kenyans in that area would move across to the Ethiopian side for search of food because the Ethiopian side has done a lot of food production. So you realize our government has not been keen on agriculture, which is said to be backbone of this economy. Agriculture comes with the production of fertilizer. So this motion, as brought by Honorable Member Atani, is long overdue, and we need to support as a House and engage government to invite investors. And why, the main reason why investors are not coming to do manufacturing in this country mainly is lack of incentives. The government has not opened up to investors who can be able to come and support them through good incentives that is happening in other countries. So, Madam Speaker, I support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Millie Odhiambo. I'll give you a chance because of order of speaking as per our standing orders, but I would like to ask others to wait.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I do thank you for recognizing ranking. But Madam Speaker, I also just want to know that because I know there are very many members who've been waiting for a long time, including my neighbor, Honorable Karoli Omondi, and I therefore will try and speak in less than the allocated 10 minutes. Madam Speaker, first of all, let me just acknowledge that you have Moi Educational Center in the House. They are visiting to see how Parliament works. And Madam Speaker, all I can say is that I hope that from the cohort that is here today, very many of them will one day be sitting here in Parliament as members of Parliament, and indeed that one of them will one day be a president of the country. It is possible, anything is possible for a willing heart. Madam Speaker, I just want to thank Honorable Atandi, the new chair of Budget Committee, for bringing this motion to the House. And just thank you that you have actually started on a very good note. And yes, you are bringing in very good perspectives to the government and continue with the same trajectory. And I just want to say that what has happened recently with the new government in the United States of America has actually, it's what I would call a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword when the administration decided that they are going to be Americentric, meaning they are going to focus on developing themselves, and therefore very little aid is going to come to countries such as Kenya. And Madam Speaker, it is not only in the US. I know, for instance, the UK is also reducing development aid. And I think it's a wake-up call for a lot of African countries. We are very rich countries. We have many resources, and we can actually, if we utilize them well, we can go far. And one of the first things we have to make sure we do is to be food secure. And that is why it is important for us to have our own locally producing manufacturers of fertilizers. And one of the things that I would then indicate is recently Parliament gave us a training on public-private partnerships. I wish Parliament could do that to every member of Parliament. And I wish Parliament could cascade what PPPs are to the whole public so that the public can get a buy-in. Not everything in PPPs is bad. It's just that because we have not alerted people about it, what it is, and made it open. But through PPPs, we can be able to bring fertilizer plants in almost every constituency and make people food secure. The other thing that I'd want to say is that we must leverage on our youth because we can no longer rely on formal employment. And we must have a lot of our young people who can be able to now even invest in agriculture. And we must adapt that and have rethinking of our in our youth so that many more can also get into areas like agriculture. And I like practicing what I say. My nephew, who I've supported very strongly, has just graduated with a degree in agriculture and is becoming a farmer. And I think this is the way to go. But as a government, we need to incubate them, help them, support them, give finances to support. But we can only do that if we stop pilferage and corruption. And I know that my good friend and colleague would not want us to talk about it. But even when we are in the broad-based government, what is wrong, and we know what is bedeviling the country. And the moment we own up to what is wrong and we're bedeviling the country is when we can sort out the issues. Are we struggling with corruption? Yes, we are. We must acknowledge and we must deal with them. And we must, at every angle, right from the presidency to the lowest level, we must deal with corruption because then there would be money available, even for free primary education, even for fertilizer. With those few remarks, I do support. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Karoli Omondi, member for Suba North.
Suba South.
Member for Suba South.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'll also try and be very brief. Madam Speaker, I rise to support this motion by Honorable Atandi, where he's calling that this House resolves that the national government, through the Ministry of Agriculture, promotes local fertilizer manufacturing by investing in research. I just want to focus on the issue of research and why it is important for this particular motion. Madam Speaker, I believe we are talking about what we call modern synthetic fertilizer, manufacturing of modern synthetic fertilizer. 40% of the cost of fertilizer used in this country is actually cost that has nothing to do with the production of fertilizer. It is basically transportation and port handling charges. In other words, if we produced the synthetic fertilizer locally, we would almost half the cost of fertilizer in this country. And this is because of fertilizer comes in liquid, solid, and gaseous form. So it is very difficult to handle. But let me first tell a story so that we understand two stories and we understand where the problem is. In 1975, the government entered into a fertilizer manufacturing deal with a company, an American company called NREN, and they formed a parastatal called KENREN, Kenya Chemical and Fertilizer Manufacturing Company. That company then entered into a financing arrangement with two banks, a Belgian bank and an Austrian bank. And then they procured two entities, Copé-Lavalin of Belgium and another company, Voest Alpine of Austria, to supply manufacturing equipment. The value of that transaction was 350 million Kenya shillings at that time. Interest rate was 8.5%. 3 years later, no equipment had been supplied. And the company, Kenren, went into receivership. But the Kenya government had guaranteed that particular loan. We ended up paying about 5.1 billion without any fertilizer manufacturing plant being installed. In 2015, again, another story. In 2015, two Japanese companies were invited by the Kenya government, Toyota Tsusho and Marubeni, very large Japanese corporations. And Toyota Tsusho was contracted to build 135 billion fertilizer manufacturing plant in Eldoret. Again, it is not working. That is the second bad experience. In fact, in the case of the earlier one of Kenren, when the company went into receivership, the government went to court in London, and the court ruled that Kenya had been a victim of deceit. But the suppliers went to appeal in Cyprus and got a judgment against the Republic of Kenya. So we ended up paying 5.1 billion for a factory that did not exist. If we do any research, we should ask ourselves, how come on two occasions, 1975 and 2015, attempts to establish a fertilizer manufacturing company in Kenya have failed? We all know that fertilizer is manufactured from urea oil. Kenya doesn't have commercial quantities of oil, phosphates, potassium, and potash. I think the only complement that we have is nitrogen. So when we are talking about manufacturing of fertilizer, I think it is important that we understand what we should be focusing on is what is called blending or granulation. In other words, importing pre-manufactured fertilizer and then blending it to create products that meet local conditions. Like the Toyota Tsusho factory was supposed to produce NPK, DAP, and CAN, all blended. But that is not the case. So I think I support this effort by Honorable Atandi, but let us do more research. Why is it that all previous to establish a fertilizer manufacturing plant in Kenya by private sector or in joint partnership with the government, like in the case of Kenren, have come to a naught? I think there's a lot of work we need to do here. You know, Kenya has the advantage of geography. We are extending the SGR all the way to the border with Malaba, with Uganda. We could, again, supply almost the entire east and central seaboard out of fertilizer, either blended in Kenya or granulated in Kenya. Or when we have enough of the raw material, we go into the production of the real manufacture, the real fertilizer. But otherwise, I support this, and I'm happy that the new chairman for the budget committee has brought this up. He used to be my neighbor here, but suddenly has disappeared. He's sitting on the other side. And I've been informed that is where the chair of budget must sit. So I've lost a very good neighbor, but on this, we thank you,
Madam Speaker, from the onset, I support the motion by the Honorable Atandi on this food security as a very important motion for us as the leadership of this country. One, Madam Speaker, food security is one of the basic needs which is necessary for the survival, and it has been said, and for a decent standard of living, which brings together amongst many water, shelter, clothing, as we know, and as access to healthcare and education. Food must be a priority in the planning of any country to secure its own people, to make sure that it's raising a healthy nation that is able to be productive in every way. I support the emphasis on this motion about research, because progress any other time in history has been based on research, because research is able to create a food security component with an ability to make sure that food will be available to the citizen of a country. It can be accessed. It is food that can be utilized, and we have a stability in the production. And therefore, research will also lead us into appreciating the changes in climate change that we, for many years, depended on rain-fed agriculture, that it may be necessary now to change the focus, that we go for irrigated agricultural attention to be able to make sure food is available in the country. Madam Speaker, we therefore would like, and I really am impressed, as my colleagues have just mentioned before, that our new chair on Budget Committee is paying attention on the very important basic and foundation in really meeting one of the basic needs in this country. And therefore, the budgeting must put emphasis on this. And Madam Speaker, also food security means security, actually, because food can be a weapon against a nation. When a nation is not able to feed its own people or our own people, it can be taken advantage of in other factors externally, determining policies that affects their domestic interest. You have no power to speak and reject anything which would have appeared to be injurious to your people if your people are hungry. And therefore, securing this particular basic need is very important in the security of a country. With that, Madam Speaker, I support the motion.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Caroline Ngei, member for Elgeyo Marakwet County.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute on the motion by Honorable Atandi on the promotion of local fertilizer manufacturing industries. And first of all, allow me to congratulate Honorable Atandi, since I think I've never had an opportunity to meet him since he became the chair of budget, and I've been looking for him in where he normally sits. And I'm also informed, just like Karoli Omondi, that he has now shifted to the government side and he will be sitting where the former chair of budget used to sit. So Honorable Atandi, congratulations in advance. And I can actually see somehow your expertise in this. So Madam Speaker, allow me also to support him by saying that as much as Honorable MP for North has given a different dimension that we need to know what it takes to be a manufacturer of fertilizer. At times, Madam Speaker, we might contribute or we might also have feel that we need to manufacture fertilizer. But also I want to support Honorable Karoli Omondi in saying, what does it take to have the fertilizer? Because as I sit here, I know that we are not the manufacturers or we are not the source of the key or the basic ingredients of fertilizer, manufacturing fertilizer, or unless we just blend or we granulate, as Honorable Karoli puts it. Nonetheless, it is a very important thing. If we can go out of if we can give a chance or we can go out on a limb to give a try, because we have had the agriculture is the backbone of our country in Kenya. Most of what we can do better in Kenya, better than fishing, better than mining, better than all the other activities that can support our country, agriculture is what we have, because we have arable land, we have good climatic conditions. It is a very good thing to have because we depend highly on agriculture in our country. And Madam Speaker, we have so many graduates, we have so many diploma holders who've trained in the field of agriculture, and they can be a very good basis for research on how we can do better on our fertilizer, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, these youth, most of them, especially the youth who pursued agriculture as a course in the university, find themselves in very unfamiliar territories because there are so many things in Kenya in the agricultural sector that are not being implemented, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you find that we have so many research institutes that are supposed to deal with agriculture that are not actually bringing out their full potential because we are not also concentrating much as a country on what we can do. So, Madam Speaker, I want to support it and say that let us put the knowledge that we have had by doing research, by also trying to venture out. And you know, Madam Speaker, when we have an homegrown research, we can actually get to know what is best. At times, depending on imported fertilizer, Madam Speaker, manufactured in another country, might not give the best out of our soil because we have different types of soil that needs the different components of fertilizers that we might not be able to maximize the full potential. So, Madam Speaker, for the sake of knowledge that we have, for the sake of research, for the sake of knowledge and education that we have gathered in our institutions, it is also good that we give a try on manufacturing the fertilizer. Madam Speaker, another thing is also there we have had and we have suffered in the with an issue of fake fertilizers, and many a times we get people who adulterate the fertilizer, Madam Speaker. But when we have our manufacturers here locally, it will be so easy as a country to keep track or to monitor and ensure that we control the quality of the fertilizers that will be produced within. And at times, Madam Speaker, it is so hard for the local people or the local agencies to control what has been manufactured out of the country because they might not be able every now and then or frequently visit the manufacturing industries and check if at all what is being purported to be the contents of the fertilizer is indeed true or not, Madam Speaker. Another aspect, Madam Speaker, is we incur a lot of money or most of the price of fertilizer that has been imported to the country has a component of transport handling along the way from the manufacturing country throughout to Kenya. And we can mitigate the cost of that handling and transportation by manufacturing our own fertilizer, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, it is always good to consider that when we produce the fertilizers within, the farmers will be able to access and get it as they want. Like for instance, right now, farmers in the North Rift are planting, and they are depending on what the government is supplying, so the subsidized fertilizer. At times, we run out of stock, we wait for 2-3 days, we wait for 1 week, and the rains are not waiting, Madam Speaker. So if we had the local manufacturer within, it will be very easy for us to access and utilize the fertilizer on time and on the rainy season, Madam Speaker. Also to add on that, Madam Speaker, is also we have the short crops along in between the long rains that we at times we wish to maybe plant beans in between the duration of maize, but you find that the government only supplies when there is need and when there is when it is time for every person to plant. So, Madam Speaker, accessing the fertilizer through the local manufacturer will ensure that we are oversupplied or we have supply of fertilizer every time we need to have it, Madam Speaker. And I want to support the motion and encourage the Ministry of Agriculture to give a try because, Madam Speaker, we always cry on food security and it is a shame that we don't face food shortage in the country because of maybe natural issues like rainfall or rainfall or maybe the type of soil that we have, but because the farmers don't get the right inputs on time, the fertilizer, the seedlings, and we can manufacture our fertilizer just the way we did the seeds last year. The previous year, Madam Speaker, the farmers had a lot of challenge with the issue of seeds. But this year, we have an oversupply of seeds. But then because the farmers are well prepared because they knew that the fertilizer is subsidized, we find that our stores that are supposed to supply fertilizer is running out of stock every now and then. So I think it is a good thing to venture in. But Honorable Atandi, it will also be good if you can advise on what are the components or what do we need to do? Is it are the components or the ingredients for manufacturing fertilizers locally available, or we'll still have to import? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, the Honorable Obo, member for Lamu East, and thank you for your patience. For 1 minute.
Asante Bi Speaker, kunipatia nafasi nami kuzungumza kwenye hoja hii ya kutengeneza mbolea hapa nchini kwetu. Nataka na mimi pia nimpongeze Mheshimiwa Atandi kuleta hoja hii. Hoja hii kusema la kweli itasaidia sana wakulima. Itasaidia kuhakikisha kwamba mbolea itapatikana kwa wingi, itapatikana kwa urahisi na mazao yatapatikana kwa wingi zikitengenezwa Kenya mbolea, na pia italeta kazi kwa vijana wetu kwa sababu hizo kampuni zikiwa hapa au viwanda vikiwa hapa zitaajiri watu. Bi Speaker, lakini pia ukweli kilichofanywa sisi tusiwe mwanzo wa uwezi wa fadhila. Kitu kifanywa kizuri, kimefanywa vizuri na tuseme pengine kiboreshwe. Lakini tusikatalie kwamba mtu amefanya jambo zuri kwa sababu ya siasa tukatae. Kusema la kweli, hii serikali, rais wetu na naibu wake wamejaribu. Na kama ni hii ruzuku inawekwa kwenye mbolea ili mbolea iwe kidogo, ile subsidy kwa kizungu subsidy. Haikuanza na rais huyu. Haikuanza na serikali hii. Ilianza kutoka huko mbele. Hawa nao wamejaribu, wamehakikisha mbolea imepatikana kwa bei nzuri, lakini kuna haja ya kuzidisha bidii ili mbolea ipatikane kwa rahisi zaidi.
Order, Honorable Rueda. Honorable Rueda, I hope you'll keep following this motion next time when it will be scheduled by the House Business Committee, because you have a balance of about 7 minutes. So you'll have the first bite. Honorable members, the time now being, honorable members, let's be upstanding, please. And the time now being 4 minutes past 1 p.m., this House stands adjourned until today, Wednesday, 2nd April 2025 at 2:30 p.m.
accounts and this morning the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and the Cabinet Secretary for Cooperatives and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises are lined up for appearance before the Senate. That is the Senate chambers already, of course, preparations ongoing. We can see the Sergeant at Arms, of course, at the stand where they will be stand as they respond to these concerns. That is the entrance to the chambers. Members are, of course, making their way inside in preparation for this morning business that is lined up for consideration or to be transacted. And the Cabinet Secretary for Cooperatives and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, Wycliffe Ambetsa Oparanya, who is already within the precincts of Parliament, will be responding to questions by the Honorable county, national, regional, or even international concerns. And this morning, the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, the Cabinet Secretary for Cooperatives and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises are lined up for appearance before the Senate. That is the Senate chambers already, of course, preparations ongoing. We can see the Sergeant at Arms, of course, standing as they respond to these concerns. That is the entrance to the chambers. Members are, of course, making their way inside in preparation for this morning business that is lined up for consideration or to be transacted. And the Cabinet Secretary for Cooperatives and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, Wycliffe Ambetsa Oparanya, who is already within the precincts of Parliament, will be responding to questions by the Honorable Senator for Migori County, Senator Eddie Okech. These questions regard the Kenya Cooperatives Creameries, KCC, and the Senator would be seeking from the Cabinet Secretary to explain the failure by the former KCC and now by the new KCC, that is the Kenya Cooperative Creameries, to pay terminal dues to former employees of KCC whose contracts were terminated in the year 1999. On the same breath, the Cabinet Secretary will be required to explain when the affected former employees can expect to receive their terminal dues, as well as the Cabinet Secretary to indicate whether the former employees have received payment for the cooperative society shares they held as at the time of their exit from KCC, and if not, provide reasons for the same. The Cabinet Secretary for Cooperatives and Micro and Small and Medium Enterprises Development, Wycliffe Ambetsa Oparanya, who is already within the precincts of Parliament and is expected to be ushered into the chambers once the House commences its business. The time allocated for the plenary sitting is 9:30. It's now 9:33. Members are still making their way into the chambers. And of course, in a short while, we shall be seeing the procession of the Speaker. And once the Speaker makes his way into the chamber, the prayer will be said. And at the time when the chair is taken, if the House has attained its quorum, that is at least 15 senators, if they will be seated inside the chambers after the chair is taken, then the House will, without any further delay, commence its business. However, if that quorum is not present, of course, we have seen members making their way into the chambers. We hope that they have raised that quorum already. If not, then a quorum bell will be rung for more members to be able to get into the chambers and raise the quorum. That is the Speaker of the Mason Jeffa Kingi, who has just made his way into the chambers. He will be presiding over this morning's sitting. Allow me to hand you over to this live broadcast brought to you by PBU in partnership with KBC. Good morning.
Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu, tukusihi tutazame kwa neema nyingi na baraka. Sisi watumishi wako ambao umeridhika kutuitwa kwa nyadhifa za uongozi katika jamhuri hii yetu. Tutakuomba utuwajalie tuyatende na kufikia mambo yote yatakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu, ili kustawisha amani, ufanisi na heri ya nchi yetu na wale ambao haja zao umezikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amen. Clerk, do we have quorum? Sergeant at Arms, kindly ring the quorum bell for 10 minutes.
Well, the prayer has been said and the chair taken. However, as indicated, the quorum has not been raised. A bell is currently underway. This is, of course, to just alert the members who may be within the precincts of Parliament, but yet to make their way to the chambers to do just that and enable the House raised that required quorum, at least 15. Can see Honorable Senator Miraj has just made her way into the chamber. At least 15 senators should be seated after the prayer is said and the chair taken. If that is not present, then a quorum bell will be rung for sort of an allowance for that particular quorum to be raised. And as we wait for the quorum to be raised, we shall go back to the business that the members will be transacting. This morning, as provided for in the House Standing Order 51-6, paragraph 1, a cabinet secretary shall appear in person on the day which the respective question is listed for a response. This morning, cabinet secretaries are expected to appear. As you can see, there is a stand right in front of the chamber where the cabinet secretary will be standing or taking their positions to respond to questions. Once the quorum is achieved, I will just hand over. And the quorum has been achieved. Allow me to hand you over the broadcast.
07 and 042. One by Senator Eddie Okech, the other one by Senator Veronica Maina. Those two questions are to the CS in charge of cooperatives. Today we're going to have the Prime Cabinet Secretary and the CS in charge of cooperatives. Those are the two CSs who will be with us during this particular session. Clerk, kindly usher in the Prime Cabinet Secretary, please. Let's proceed as that is being done by reading the first order. Proceed.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers. Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
Question 002 is by Senator Eddie, but he's not present. I'm informed by Senator Beatrice Ogola that she will be asking that question on behalf of Senator Eddie, having duly been instructed to do so. So once the Prime Cabinet Secretary takes his place, I will be asking Senator Beatrice Ogola to proceed to ask that question on behalf of Senator Eddie. Yes, you may proceed.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, just for clarification, I don't know why he came in thinking that the CS for Treasury was also supposed to be here to respond to a question that I had asked.
Yes, we had anticipated, and indeed we expected the CS in charge of Treasury to be present today for purposes of responding to questions from honorable members. However, pursuant to a letter that the CS wrote, that letter was deliberated upon during the Senate Business Committee in its sitting yesterday. The CS is not in the country, and he sought to be to attend some other time because he was not going to be able to appear before the Senate today for purposes of responding to those questions. The reason that he gave was found to be sufficient, and therefore the committee acceded to the request. He will be appearing next Wednesday for purposes of responding to your question and other questions asked by honorable senators. And that is why those questions are not contained in today's order paper. Is any senator holding brief for Senator Veronica Maina? Good. Okay. I cannot see the Honorable Senator from Marsabit County, the Honorable Mohammed Chute. Is there Senator holding brief for Senator Mohammed Chute? Yes, but we need to be persuaded that you have full instructions from the Honorable Senator by producing written.
Honorable Speaker, he said that he's almost arriving, so if he doesn't come, then make me help him.
Well, the Prime Cabinet Secretary is already in the House. We cannot keep the Prime Cabinet Secretary. Now, honorable members, you know this starts at exactly 9:30. Now, if you remember my communication yesterday, I indicated that any honorable senator who has business listed in the paper must be present to prosecute the business. And if you're not present, then that business will be dropped. It is extremely embarrassing to have the Prime Cabinet Secretary seated ready to respond to questions. And Honorable Senator for Lamu, we are not in some embarrassing in the plenary. It is extremely embarrassing that the Prime Cabinet Secretary made himself available in respect to this request to attend sent to him by the Senate. Came to plenary in good time, and we're here being told that the Honorable Senator is on his way coming. We don't know how long it's going to take. That cannot be tolerated. I'm afraid I will have to drop this business. Prime Cabinet Secretary, we are extremely sorry to have you here, and the holder of that particular business is not around to ask that question. I will therefore release you. You may leave at your pleasure. Prime Cabinet Secretary. That business is dropped. Can you usher in the CS in charge of cooperatives? Senator Chute. Honorable Senator Chute, may you approach the chair, please? Now, Senator Chute just walked in while we were in the process of dropping his business. Clerk, can you confirm that the Prime Cabinet Secretary is still in the House, or has he already left? Clerk, can you confirm? Still have the Prime Cabinet Secretary in the House? All right. Senator Mohammed Chute, you may proceed. First, explain your absence when this matter was called out. If the chair is not satisfied with the reasons you're going to advance, we will still drop your business. Proceed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. My apologies to the Senate, to the Cabinet Secretary, and to you, Honorable Speaker. I was in a traffic jam. I came running all the way.
Honorable Chute, you do not have a car?
I do have a car.
So why were you running?
But no, working here from my office, of course. My apologies again.
You may now proceed to ask.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I have a question for this Cabinet Secretary. Let me, Prime Cabinet, my apologies again. Thank you very much for coming. And you know, we respect you a lot. My question is, A, could the Cabinet Secretary state the number of Kenyan refugees in a place called Magado and Dilo towns in Ethiopia, and provide information on the timeline and circumstances of their displacement, as well as current state of their well-being? B, what is the government doing to facilitate the repatriation of the Kenyan refugees? And could the Cabinet Secretary provide a timeline for the same? C, could the Cabinet Secretary outline measures put in place to ensure successful reintegration of repatriated refugees into the local community? And finally, D, will the government, the Cabinet Secretary state whether the compensation will be paid? Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Prime Cabinet Secretary, you may now proceed to respond, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to respond as follows. I would seek the indulgence because it's a fairly elaborate response so that hopefully I can satisfy the concerns of the member. Part A, that is on the information on the number of Kenyan refugees in Megado and Dilo towns. Let me respond as follows. The Kenya Borana refugees arrived in Ethiopia in 2005-2006 and settled in the Borena zone of the Oromo region in Dilo and Megado settlements. Their displacement was triggered by a series of inter-ethnic conflicts in Marsabit County, particularly the conflict between Borana and the Gabra ethnic groups over natural resources, grazing lands, contested and disrupted territorial boundaries, and of course, local political dynamics. Most of the refugees originate from Marsabit County in the following sub-counties: Saku, in Marsabit area, North Hor, Maikona, Dukana, North Hor, and North Hor again, and Muyale sub-county. Upon arrival in Ethiopia, support and protection was initially provided by the Borana clan of Oromo region in 2007. They were registered by the Administration of Refugees and Refugee Affairs, ARA, of Ethiopia and UNHCR. They have continued to live alongside the host community, and ARA is currently known as the Refugees and Returnees Services of Ethiopia. On the number and population statistics, according to the Department of Refugee Services, over 500 families of Kenyan origin living in the Dilo and Megado areas of southern Ethiopia ran away to seek asylum due to inter-ethnic conflicts in North Hor in the year 2000. The conflicts culminated into what came to be known as the Turbi massacre. The breakdown today, as at 3rd of December, it's a statistic, but I'll hand over this also to the parliament. For the Dilo, we have a total of 2,060 in Dilo area. And in Megado, 3,600. In terms of individuals, male 1,788, female are 2,883, and children are 3,385 out of the total figure of 5,671. What are the solutions we are looking at? From 27th October to 3rd December, the RSSS and the UNHCR conducted a verification of the Borana refugees in Dilo and Megado refugees settlements. During this period, an intentional survey was carried out to assess the refugees who are willing to return to their home country, Kenya. In terms of households, this amounted to 1,098. In terms of individuals, this was 4,993. Notably, 88% of the total refugee population expressed their intention immediately to return to Kenya. The refugees expressed interest to return to the following areas: 1, Sololo, 1,836, Marsabit, 1,081, Moyale, 633, Oran, 491, Dukana, 325, Moyale Township, 272, 9, Sangate, Jaldesa, 40, Turbi, 13, and in other areas, 37. Mr. Speaker, the majority of the refugees were not willing to return to their area of origin due to fear of ethnic conflict. They also prefer to move to areas that are inhabited largely by the Borana community. The Kenyan refugees in Ethiopia still retained their identity cards and are now willing to return home to Kenya voluntarily. The second part of the question is about facilitation on the repatriation of the Kenyan refugees, and I wish to respond as follows, Mr. Speaker. The following are possible options. One, there's organized and facilitated return by the UNHCR. This requires a formal engagement between the governments of Kenya and Ethiopia and is formalized through a tripartite agreement that will include the UNHCR. It will require a rigorous process that entails internal survey to go and see visits, identification of settlement areas, signing of voluntary repatriation forms, and other bureaucratic processes. This option may not be immediate as it requires time in order to fulfill all the requirements. There's also the self-organized or self-return, which is usually spontaneous, and the role of the UNHCR in this option will be limited to provision for information and funding to facilitate the return of the refugees. This option requires the government of Kenya to facilitate receiving and resettlement of repatriated individuals. Third, due to the proximity of the refugees to the Ethiopia-Kenya border, their families in Kenya, including the possibility that they cross over to Kenya to visit their families, UNHCR prefers the self-organized return. For repatriation to take place, the refugees must desire to return, and the Kenya-Ethiopia government should engage in consultations facilitated by the UNHCR Regional Bureau and local UNHCR offices. Currently, as I said, 4,993 individuals have expressed their desire to return back to Kenya, and the process of repatriation should begin. The third aspect was the measures put in place to ensure successful reintegration of the repatriated refugees into the local community. Mr. Speaker, again, this has quite a number of issues which I'll try and run through. They may not be exhaustive, but it's important. There are a number of concerns which need to be addressed that have been expressed and should be addressed before repatriation can take place. These include the following. One, where will the displaced persons return to? How will they be accommodated? That is land, housing, among others. The refugees have been relying on humanitarian assistance to access basic services, and they will need similar support until they are fully integrated. We will have to deal with the issue about their safety and security in the settlement areas. There has to be a proper organized. We also have to cater for their material safely of the younger generation who are born in Ethiopia. The refugees will require assurance of legal safety, rehabilitation, creation of livelihood opportunities, and in some instances, repossession of property, including ancestral land. We will also have to address intermarriage, births in Ethiopia, and confirmation of documentation for spouses and children. There's also need for mutual recognition of the documentation of issues to the refugees